that dial. You're now listening to Debate Talk Free Radio.
Peace and greetings to you. This is Emunah Yisrael, affectionately known as the First Lady of Debate Talk for you. I have enjoyed coming to you week after week, season after season, growing together, speaking about the difficult topics, investing the energy, time, and effort with our brothers and sisters on the panel. Today, I would like to come to you with an opportunity for you to invest in something that I've been working on and that's near and dear to me. It's called the Yummy Cottage. You can learn more about it at www.gofundme.com/the Yummy Cottage. We're currently fundraising so that we can get it off the ground, and your help would be appreciated. Once again, www.gofundme.com/the Yummy Cottage. Check the link in the box and hope to hear from you soon. Greetings. Welcome back once again. This is Emunah Yisrael, affectionately known as the First Lady for Debate Talk for you. We appreciate all the listeners, male and female, who support the Relationship Challenge and our newest edition and sister show, Under the Palm, Hebrew Women Speak. So sisters, if you have something to share or desire to be featured on the Debate Talk for You platform, please send all requests to underthepalm2@gmail.com. Once again, ladies, that's underthepalm2@gmail.com. We appreciate you and hope to hear from you soon.
Welcome to the planet of debates. Debate Talk Free Radio.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? How you guys doing? Welcome to another show. You're now listening to Debate Talk Free Radio, and it is Monday, so you know what that means, everybody. Tonight is the Relationship Challenge segment right here on Debate Talk Free Radio, hosted by Emunah Yisrael. And we appreciate the family out there that's tuning into the show via phone or via Skype. Call down at the number 319-527-6239. If you didn't know, we only have 2 more weeks left, family. 2 more weeks left before we end the season. Well, not the season. We end this particular period of Debate Talk for You 2017. The last show is going to actually be Friday, December 22nd. That's right, Friday, December 22nd. Then we take a 4-week break as usual, and we're going to come back actually Monday, January 22nd. So we're going to take a 4-week break, family, after the 22nd. Just to let y'all know, if y'all didn't know, I made announcements before, but I'm going to continue to do that to let the people know, the family know, so they know when to tune back into the program. But I appreciate everybody that's calling in via phone and via Skype. I appreciate everybody on social media that's checking out the show. If you're inside a group checking out the show, do me a favor, share it on your personal page on social media. let people know that Debate Talk for You is live and on the air, and make sure you attach that number, 319-527-6239. It's the show where anybody can call in with their questions and their comments. As long as you keep it clean and keep it professional, you can let your voice be heard. Today's show is entitled Side Wives, Side Chicks, and Side Effects. Once again, today's show is entitled Side Wives, Side Chicks, and Side Effects. Let's find out where this goes. Let's introduce the host of the show, Emunah. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Brother Sal. Greetings and welcome, everybody. All praise be to the Most High. Welcome to the next episode of Debate Talk for You. Sal, when you said Side Wives, I was like, ooh, that's the name of the show? But I guess so. But it was Second Wives, Side Chicks, and Side Effects. But Side Wives, I guess that works for the way this conversation will unfold. We'll have to wait and see.
All right, I'll make that correction on the board. There we go. But let's go to my brother, Ahwar Da Swordsman, who's here. Ahwar Da Swordsman, welcome to the show.
Hey, what's going on, Sal? Shalom, my sister. Thank the Most High. All right, thank the Most High and Christ that I made it here tonight. It's going to be a good show. Hopefully everything goes smooth. And, Torah nights, hey, we got a bag for y'all heads. I just want to put that out there. We have a debate Friday. It's going to be good. All you brothers and sisters come out. It's going to be fire. That's all I want to say about that.
Side promotion. Make sure I tune into the debate on Friday, the team debate. Got you. And my next special guest, she's here. Mayanah, welcome to the show.
Hey, shalom, everybody. How's it going?
Doing pretty good. What's going on with you?
Chilling, chilling, chilling. Can't wait to have the conversation unfold. As the sister said, you know, it's an honor to be here once again with the people.
All right, we appreciate you. And like I said, the title, once again, the correction, Second Wives, Side Chicks, and Side Effects is the title of this show. We're going to get the show started. Oh, by the way, Ahmathyah, he's going to be coming on?
You know what? He's probably waiting for me. So let me go ahead and call him while you kick the show off.
Okay, no problem. All right, so do me a favor. I'm hearing some feedback. Mute your mics, everybody. But Mona, in the meanwhile, take it away.
Yeah, we are hearing a bit of feedback. Everybody mute your mics if you can. Once again, this is the voice of Emunah Yisrael, a very tired Emunah Yisrael, but it is all good. Yummy Cottage business on deck. As we said, the conversation, you know, oftentimes we have the same conversation over and over and over again in the community, and oftentimes it's from the same perspective, you know. And so this came up, you know, just over the years and just over the recent times. It's like, okay, what are we going to address, and from what perspective are we going to address it? And oftentimes when it is spoke about polygyny or multiple wives or adding people, and it's not against Torah, and this is all of the benefits. So anytime you talk about benefits, there's an alternative side. There's another side to a benefit, a side effect. Or even in some spaces, you know, in the medical field, they'll be like, these are the benefits of this, and these are the side effects. And the individual has the opportunity to weigh, you know, whether or not the benefits or the pros outweigh the cons. And so hopefully that's kind of the conversation. We've heard, you know, about economic powerhouses. We've heard how you can build your empire. We've heard all of those things. But for all fairness, hopefully we'll be having this discussion about what can be expected on the other side. It's not about being negative. It's not about throwing shade. But if we're going to honestly come to the table and discuss, as many people often, you know, do, then it is beneficial to say these are some of the things that you can look out for. These are some of the things that you can expect. And these are some of the things that comes with the territory, and for both the male and the female. Oftentimes, you know, it's like the female just deal with the side effects as they come. And then when you speak to people who may be in that space, they'll be like, oh, that's nothing. It gets minimalized, you know, as nothing, not really that serious, you know. And these are the things hopefully we're going to go ahead and bring out tonight. And so just for clarity, for those who just joined us, the name of the show is Second Wives, Side Chicks, and Side Effects. We can start by seeing if there's a difference between second wives and side chicks, and then we could definitely go into the side effects of the conversation. So, Brother Ahwar, what are your thoughts on the title? I know some people were taken aback by the title. What are your thoughts on the title in itself?
I was looking at the title myself, and you know, that's a funny topic, right? Because, you know, those titles, a second wife, a side chick. Well, let me explain a side chick. Okay, a side chick in this society is a woman you have on the side where there's no obligation. Okay, y'all go and have your fun, or, you know, the intimacy, and that's it. 99% of the time, women in that situation have a guy on the side. So that's straight up whoremongering and fornication. They go on with that. That's the purpose of a side chick, is no responsibility, no obligation. We're having a good time, and that's it. You know, and we're doing it for this certain time. It's a very, very sinful act. Okay. Now, having a second wife that go into, you're supposed to have the responsibility. A lot of guys really don't know the difference, where I come from, the difference between a second wife and a whoremonger. Okay? Some people think, you know, you have a woman, you don't have no responsibility. It's complicated. I'm going to explain it later. I'm just throwing it out, but it's real crazy, and I've been down that road. I know about that road. I know about the illusion of, yeah, that's my second wife. Know all about the garbage, but as we go on, I'll bring out more. I'm just, but then I'll pass the mic because it's real complicated.
Oh, wait a minute, Brother Award. We're going to definitely come to have an expert witness here with us. Thank you so much, Brother Award, for sharing. So far, I've heard you say there can be similar and there are things that makes one different from the other. That's what you're saying?
Yes.
And you're going to help us out with that. So we're going to come back to Brother Award. He's going to give us some more information. Again, this is just the opening statements. So we're going to pace the conversation most definitely. So we heard that Brother Ahmathyah is in the house. So we're going to open up Brother Ahmathyah's mic and allow him to say greetings to everyone on the panel. Brother Ahmathyah, welcome to the conversation.
Thank you. Shalom, everybody. So you want my opinion as far as the title? Is that
before, yes.
Like
the title was creating a bit of a stir. So before we go into the fullness of it, just opening second wives, side chicks, and side effects. Your initial thought when you saw a title and understood that this was going to be a discussion.
I actually thought that it was going to be a very good title. I actually thought that it was a very good title and one worthy of discussion. I think a lot of men do have side chicks, but they dub them as second wives when, in all honesty, they barely even know how to treat the first, much less, to have a second wife, and then she is really in the space of a side chick and not really a second wife. So, a lot of the times the side chick, aka second wife. Yes, there is a difference. I would most definitely agree to that. However, a lot of the times the difference gets blurred, and she's called a second wife, although she is a side chick out of convenience sake. It's only because the term side chick is normally one that's dirty, one that's of in ill repute, so you wouldn't use it. But by any other definition, that's exactly what she is, is a side chick, and not really a second wife, even though that's what sometimes the men will call them. So I think it is a topic worthy of discussion and definitely something worth talking about, and something that definitely has to be talked about. That's my opinion, and with that, I'll yield the mic.
So that was two brothers in a row that's saying this is an excellent topic, something to look into. And this is coming from the masculine principle that's saying, it's not just some sisters over there hating, that oftentimes there's a blurring of the lines between one and the other. So we hopefully are going to begin to unpack that and see what it looks like and where the lines are being blurred. Interesting conversation. Sister Mayanah, welcome to the conversation. Let us know your opening thoughts. Sidewives. No, now Sal got me saying sidewives. See what you done did, Brother Sal? Second wives, side chicks, and side effects. Please excuse me, everyone. Sister Mayanah, your opening thoughts.
For me, I think that is very telling that it is the men that are letting us know that this side chick and second wife phenom is something that can very often appear interchangeable. It's my position that, of course, the second wife is not a side chick. Historically, in her placement, there are many societies where there is an additional wife added to the family, and that she is endowed with certain material acknowledgments, and she's given a particular space, and she's given certain legitimacies if she is indeed a second wife in those communities and in those cultures, according to whatever traditions and customs they have in place to support this kind of marriage strategy. I think that what we're hearing from the brothers is that because Israel doesn't have any of those things in place, we don't have any type of codified language that says this is how such a structure would be conducted outside of very particular circumstances, such as the levirate or cases, and not even in cases of war. It's just how those marriages get managed. That's not discussed in our codified language. And so because it appears that these families have to essentially kind of make it, I want to say make it up in a pejorative way, but there is a sort of learning curve that has to be instituted because there is nothing on paper to justify this type of marriage strategy when it is executed by the will of the male. This idea of the male is going out and picking up women and, as both the brothers said, endowing or dubbing this second woman with these titles and then having no idea how she's supposed to function in the family. And so she winds up being very side chick-ish. And then that second woman has to bear the stigma of this placement and the way that she's not functioning, and very often she's considered an intrusion, and maybe from the outside more so than whatever psychology is happening inside the family to reconcile the changes of this dyadic structure into something that has more components. So for me, this idea of side chick and second wives, they do have a distinction. They're supposed to have a distinction. The question really becomes whether or not this is a marriage strategy that belongs to this community, and the fact that we're struggling with it, should we be using that as a teachable moment, then maybe that's not the strategy that is endemic to our community and that we have adopted from somewhere else.
Thank you for that. That was the voice of Sister Mayanah Johnson. If you are on the line and you would like your voice to be heard early, feel free to go ahead and press 1. I know this conversation can be one that gets people stirred up depending on what part wherever you fall in the conversation. And so as long as you keep it clean, professional, and respectable, we'll love to hear your thoughts on the matter. We're going to come to Brother Ahwar for a little more of that, experience that you spoke of earlier, Brother Ahwar. If you may help us to understand the process of, if there is one, in the time in which you were coming, the process of acquiring the second wife, who in the terminology of Sister Mayanah is side chickish. Like, I'm gonna run that all night, side chickish. What's that process? Run it down for us, brother. Well, what does it look like?
All right. Well, first, I want to build a platform and then bring it to where we at, because, the side chick thing, and you got to be a male, really. A lot of women will not really understand this. Like the side chick thing, there's a lot of things. Like I said, it's complicated. Many men take side chicks for many different reasons. It's not always for intimacy. Sometimes certain women can make you feel a certain way. Like, I'm going to tell you a secret. Every man I grew up with, they're like a John Shaft trapped in a boy's body. You understand? So that thing with the multiple women and all that, we have that in us. We've learned that. We was raised that way. So I'm going to build from that, and then we can bring it back to how it's detrimental to our lifestyle if it's not done righteously or really in this time period. But let me read this first. This is the Song of the Three Holy Children in King James Apocrypha, and this is going to put us where we at right now as a people. It says, "For we have sinned in committing iniquity, departing from thee. In all things have we trespassed and not obeyed thy commandments." From marriage, from everything, we trespassed. We did the opposite. Then it says, "Nor kept them, neither done as thou hast commanded us, that it might go well with us." Then it says, "Wherefore all that thou hast brought upon us, and everything that thou hast done to us, thou hast done it in true judgment." Then it says, "And thou didst deliver us into the hands of lawless enemies, most hateful forsakers of the Most High, and to an unjust king, and the most wicked in all the world." So that's our position right now. We're in a captivity in a kingdom that's really wicked, that cares less about Torah law. So a lot of us do things still that is not Torah law that we think that is righteous. like I said, getting these side chicks. There's a lot of cats that have a side chick, and they're not dealing with them according to Torah law, where the responsibility part. They do what they want to do. I've seen this. The women have somebody on the side, and the idea of that is, look, what I don't know won't hurt me. A lot of wickedness going with that. But a lot of cats make you think, oh, she's loyal. The whole dressing like the harlot, all that, wearing the clothes and all that. It's a lot of stuff that needs to really be discussed and exposed, because we think that it's righteous and we make it look cute. And you think it's righteous, but when you go inside it, it's terrible. But I just want to put that out there. And I'll come back later and build more.
All right, thank you for that. That was the voice of Brother Ahwar. He's leading us up now. He's giving us a little bit at a time, because we over here like, well, let us know how it goes, Brother Ahwar. So thank you for that. We're going to come back to you. We're going to go to Brother Ahmathyah. Is this something that you have witnessed in times past? We know we've spoken in other shows where oftentimes men are told this as a bonus, this is a plus, that you can get other women, expound a bit more on the thought process that you shared about the blurry line between the two.
Well, the blurry line between the two, meaning, how can I put it? I guess I'll just put it bluntly. The blurry line between the two just simply means that the same way how a person who's not biblically literate, who doesn't follow after the Most High, who keeps no Torah in his life whatsoever, would go out there and have a side chick, right? It's the same way how people who are brothers would go out there and also have a side chick. Only difference is that they would dub this side chick a second wife. That's what I mean by it being blurred. When you look at the person who has a side chick and you look at the person who has a second wife, there really is no difference except for the fact that one is called a side chick and the other one is called a second wife. Whereas the first one, the side chick, the brother who the man in the world who has a side chick, because he's in the world, he dubs it properly, which is a side chick. Whereas the man who is supposedly following Torah dubs it improperly, calls it a wife, when in all actuality it is a side chick. That's what I mean by the lines being blurred. It's definitely not done in a perspective where it's conducive to the family or even to build a family. A lot of the times, I have been in those spaces where I have witnessed where it was done to try to build a family, but a lot of the times it failed for various reasons. Each dynamic situation or each unique situation had its own merits and perspectives and mechanics as to why it failed. Nevertheless, it failed. But when I say that the lines are blurred, I just simply mean by that is there's no real difference about how it's done by somebody in the world as opposed to somebody who claims to keep Torah. It's pretty much the same thing, where the side chick is just pretty much there for sex, and he calls her a second wife, I guess, to ease his conscience, when in all actuality she's not his second wife. She's there because he's horny, because he wants to have sex with somebody. Guys think that a lot of brothers have thought that simply because the urge is there to have multiple women, that they should simply act upon it, when that's not the case. Because we have urges, that doesn't mean that we need to necessarily act upon them. That doesn't necessarily mean that we should act upon them. A lot of those times, I'm going to say 99.999% of the time, when a man is already married and he has an urge to get a quote unquote second wife, a lot of times it's best for him to recognize it for what it is, which is lust, and to quell that and to not act upon it for the good of the family and not try to go out there and try to dub it something that it's not. And that's what I meant. With that,
wow, brother. It's a pretty radical view. You might have someone who's listening right now or after the show is saying, wow, did I just hear what I thought I heard? What if the individual says, hey, they went about it in the proper way. They didn't lay with the woman. They gave her a house or they gave her a room in the house. At that point, we're going to definitely come back around, but at that point, let's say they went to the family and they told the truth. Hey, listen, I have a wife here, and I'm going to go acquire someone, your daughter, right? And they went about all this, but there's still no paperwork. Is she a wife at that point?
No.
We're going to come back and talk about it. We're going to come back. We're going to check with Mayanah. I know this whole, you was like, yeah, but I'm like, hold, because you said some stuff that's just very, it's for many, it's an alternative view, especially coming from the masculine principle that more often than not going out to seek, and this is what I heard, so correct me if I'm wrong, going out with urges to seek another partner for sexual gratification is what motivates a lot of men to say they're getting, this is like the truth behind it. This is like when you pull away the curtain, according to Ahmathyah, let me know if I'm wrong, when you pull away the curtain, back there is just one big urge. Is that what you're saying, Ahmathyah?
I mean, to put it in a nutshell, yeah. They just use They just use what they interpret as Torah law as a reason to go out there and to exercise their lust. Now, of course, I'm not by no means trying to say that this is all men. All men who follow Torah. I'm not going to. I by no means am trying to stroke with a broad brush. What I am just talking about is definitely the vast majority, especially of my experiences, when it comes down to men who have done that, and looking at other brothers who try to use Torah and how they come about that whole idea that it's okay for them to get a side chick, the way that they go into it and they try to justify it and try to say that it's righteous or that it's lawful. But once you look at their proof texts, which I understand that we're not going to get into tonight, which is fine. But when you look at their proof text and the method that they use to try to justify it, context normally kills that. And I'm definitely of the opinion that the practice of having more than one wife, even in Torah, was definitely something that was very limited and not just done on the whim. Just because the man felt that it was Tuesday and he just wanted to go out there and get a second wife. No, it didn't work that way. And it most definitely didn't. And 9 times out of 10 doesn't work that way today, even in in modernity with Israel. So yeah, a lot of times it's just lust playing itself out with the coverage of Torah, nothing else.
Well, this is a 3-part title, so definitely hold that. If we have time, we will go into those scriptures, because after we talk about why does Sal have me saying sidewives? After we talk about second wives and side chicks, we're going to go, after we hear from the audience, we're going to talk about side effects, of which we will take a look at some of the side effects that often get, skimmed over in Torah, that there was side effects for bringing on second wives or concubines into the family. So we're going to hear from Sister Mayanah. Thank you so much for that, Brother Ahmathyah. We're going to hear from Sister Mayanah. If y'all hear the children in the background, y'all already know. So you're going to hear from Sister Mayanah, and we're going to check the phone lines, and then we're going to continue on with the conversation.
Oh, that's my cue. Okay, well, for me, and I think that it's great that we're hearing so much from the men about this topic and the way that it gets represented in our contemporary context in the community, the Israelite community specifically, but this is happening in the conscious community and in even secular melanated communities where having multiple women is being looked upon as a marriage strategy to kind of offset this idea of there being a crisis in the community for reasons such as there being a limited number of men or limited number of viable men. So these are real concerns. We don't want to underplay that there are real concerns in the community and that the community is attempting to rectify these concerns by their own wisdom, in their own wisdom. And there is this kind of reach around to say that there's a biblical precedence, this historical situation, that polygyny is historically situated, and then trying to parlay that to also mean that it is biblically sanctioned because it is historically situated. And I think that it's important to hear the men when they say certain important things, especially as women. We hear the brothers specifically on this panel, and we'll wait to hear what the listening audience has to say. But when we hear the men concede that there is this idea that this is something that they were born with, or this is a natural inclination to this sort of accumulating the feminine principle onto themselves, collecting the feminine principle onto themselves, that this is natural in some way, and that this is how they have been reared. We have created kind of mentality in our boys and in our sons that for them to go out and conquer the feminine principle is what they do. And so they continue to do it. And then as one of the brothers, or both of the brothers, has said, that then what happens is that this worldly imperative becomes something that gets transposed onto this Hebrew background, this Israelite background, and it gets just kind of transferred over. And now it's been Hebrew-ized or Hebrew-sized, or however you want to term it. And then it becomes a matter that the women must now deal with, how now the women have to make sense of this new imposition, this new ideology, and that they are being told that in order to be righteous, they have to co-sign or must participate in, which I think a lot of the pushback has been less of the idea that this is something that the men are interested in. More so, I believe, from what I've observed over time, over all these many years, is that the women are more reluctant, or they are exhibiting more pushback to the idea that it's something that they must do, or that it somehow signals the extent of their righteousness, which is extremely disingenuous and manipulative and terroristic, with no exaggeration. This is flat out terrorism to tell a woman that she must participate or she must agree to this type of marriage strategy, or else there is some negative repercussions on her very salvation. Especially when we're hearing that this is not a biblical imperative. We're hearing that this is something that the men are often interested in and are seeking for their own reasons. And when we really go back and interrogate Torah, if we're going to talk about Torah, we don't see that the men are typically leading the charge when it comes to creating this particular type of paradigm. I yield the floor with that. I was trying to give Emunah time to come back.
I'm here.
All right.
Thank you so much for that, Sister Mayanah. You said some things that, maybe my ears perk up as it relates to the way in which this conversation is presented and the things that are attached to it as it relates. It goes from custom and tradition. Somehow it morphs into law that your very salvation hangs on, which gets a bit interesting, which we're going to continue to take a look at the conversation. For those who've just joined us, is second wives, side chicks, and side effects So far, we've opened up the conversation looking at, from the masculine and feminine perspective, this not just in a theory, but in actually what this is experienced. We have those on the panel who've, collectively have had decades walking in this space, not only in the Hebrew Israelite community, but conscious community abroad, because this is not something that is solely in the Hebrew Israelite community. It's in the Islam community. It's in the conscious community, and different communities tie different things to it. But at the end of the day, you have this common denominator of adding multiple women onto the men. So we're going to check on Brother Sal and see if anyone is on the phone line, if anyone has pressed 1 at this time. If not, I'm still over here waiting for some more of Ahwar's testimony. So Brother Sal is there on the line.
All right. That number is 319-527-6239. If you just joined into the show, today's show is entitled Second Wives, Side Chicks, and Side Effects. Once again, call in. The number is 319-527-6239. Once you call in, you got to press number 1, and they'll let us know that you have a question. So far, nobody else pressed number 1. We have a lot of listeners, though, tuned into the show. You can also send me an email at debatetalkview@gmail.com if you have any questions, and I can read them out to the panel. Okay, somebody press number 1. Let's go to the phone lines. Let's go to 718-378. You're live on air.
Hey, shalom, or Hakol.
Shalom, Ima.
Shalom, Ima.
Shalom. This is a very interesting topic, and I'm so glad to hear, as you say, the male principal weigh in on this, because so many times women who have protested about the way this situation is being handled are labeled as, man bashing and all the rest of that kind of stuff, even though their aim was that it be done in righteousness. I've seen a lot of sisters come into law and leave this way of life because of the way that they were brought in by the men as second wives when they were really treated as side chicks. And I'm glad to hear that this topic is being discussed, because it's a very important one. And it's one that has brought a lot of contention. I've seen it going down since I'm old enough. I've seen it going down where it affects the children and even their children, even grandchildren, because of some of the ways that it was handled. So I'm glad to hear that people are now hearing this and being truthful about it, and understanding that we may not be completely equipped to handle it, simply because we've been so disengaged from our families and our familial background that in healing we may not know the correct path back all the time. We have to remember that we have been torn apart, and most of our culture has been almost disintegrated and cut down and what have you. And now that we're trying to gain these things back, I know sometimes what we do, we go from one extreme to the other, from worshiping the false deities and being into that stupor. We then go the other way, and then we want to get everything Israelite. And the first thing that a lot of men do is that they want to think about second wives. If we look at our history, this was not always the case, and the law does not state that you must have a second wife or a third wife or 20th wife. It says that if you have more than one wife, the way that you are to treat those women and what they are entitled to. And I do understand that this society does not allow for polygynous situations under their law, but we do have to find a way that we're going to allow for protection for that woman, that the second or the third or whatever number wife she is, and her children in our community. Zehu.
Thank you for that. That was the voice of Emunah. It's always good hearing from her to help us to understand and see whether or not we're on the right track with a lot of these conversations. As she said, historically in many spaces, this is something that would not have been spoken about in the way in which it's being spoken about. And the time wasn't yet ready for many people, especially those males, to admit But now is the time because the process, it's one thing to hypothesize about something, and then there's another thing to see the effects of the thing you hypothesized about. You put it into action, you put it into motion, and you have to honestly say, listen, this is what I did, and this is what happened. And in a lot of spaces, second wives, side chicks are being sold this thought of, is being sold as nothing but benefit. You know what I'm saying? Nothing but good can happen to you. This is only a win, And then reality sets in, and as Iman just said, children and grandchildren come to tell their stories, and then we don't know what to do with these stories. We don't know what to do with these testimonies. We don't know what to do with these people because we didn't project that this could actually happen. So this is taking accountability for things that people have put in the ether before us, and being honest about it, because this is the only way, I'm about to go into the whole healing spiel, please, everybody bear with me, but the only way that we can really heal is if we're honest, and we acknowledge and we accept, hey, I said this thing, or we said this thing, or our foreparents said this thing, and this is the after effects. Science, they have a hypothesis, then they test that hypothesis, then they come back with the results of the test. And you have to be honest if you're going to make any real progress. So thank you so much for calling in. Iman, thank you for pressing 1. If you, at any point throughout this conversation, would like your burst to be heard again, just feel free to press 1. If you're out there and you would like to chime in, it's funny how we get a lot of comments under the YouTube. We get a little flashback on the Facebook. But we're inviting you not to argue, not to fight, not for any of these things, but to be honest. Come to the table and have a discussion. One time someone was like, well, they're not going into a whole lot of scriptures. This is a discussion. It's called a relationship challenge. It's Torah-based. It's biblically based. But again, Torah is all around us. So if we cannot come back to the table and honestly speak to one another about our experiences, what happens is we begin to hide behind text. Well, the text says, okay, I know what the text says. What did you do? You see what I'm saying? And so this is another way we can be disingenuous and dishonest with one another, because instead of becoming truthful, we're hiding behind what the text says and not coming forward with what we have done and whether or not it has passed or failed. So with that, I'm going to check on Brother Sal. I don't think anyone else has pressed 1 yet. I do know a lot of people were looking forward to this conversation. So maybe you're just chilling out and want to hear. Brother Sal, is there anyone on the phone line?
All right, nobody else is pressing 1 at this time, but we have a lot of listeners. I see we got some Skype callers as well. If you're on Skype, then simply press number 1 as well on your Skype, and that'll let me know that you have a question. But at this time, nobody else is pressing number 1. I'll keep you posted.
Thank you so much, Brother Sal. Okay, Brother Ahwar, I have my popcorn now. We're ready to hear a little bit of, because also this is a warning, edification for young ones who may be coming along, for people who may not have, known that this is a well-oiled machine in certain spaces, and this is kind of like if you see a stumbling block, you don't let the blind just trip over it. So, Brother Ahwar, we have our popcorn and our drinks, and we're ready to hear a little bit more of sidewise, second wives, side chicks. Man, you see, and side effects. We're gonna come on side effects on the other side of the 9 o'clock hour, right? So for right now, Brother Ahwar, let's hear more of your experience.
Right. Yeah, let me say this, because y'all talking to the perfect guy, because I'm like a crash dummy. I done been through all that. I know the pros and the cons. And I'll say this, right? It was a situation. I'll give you one of my situations where I did that, had the other wife, the 2 wives thing. But what we don't understand, and this is what happens, right? Remember back in the Bible when King Saul wanted to kill David, and it told you that David had to play a harp to get a spirit out of King Saul. Well, in this time period, that kind of spirit that he had to pull out of Paul, there's a lot of those kind of spirits now. So now what happened to me is that, you have it, you get the other wife, and everything's going good. Well, those spirits get in one of them women from either jealousy or hatred or malice. So now you're spending time trying to, the spirits are getting one of the women, and you spending time trying to dissolve that. So it's a lot of stress, confusion. It looks cute. You got your two wives, you know, you're at the party, they're getting you drinking food, but when the spirits enter one of them and they cause that discord or malice or envy, and then the family get there, you ain't him, you got the two wives. Your mama, you get spirits coming from that aspect, and it is a bunch of. I mean, if Cat want to deal with that stress and that headache, hey, go ahead. But I'm gonna tell you, it looks cute, but it ain't as cute as you think it is. That's all I'm gonna say.
Brother Ahwar, you got me. No, when you said it looks cute, it reminds me of the sister who sees these shoes and she's like, oh my goodness, it's so cute, you know. The shoe only got space for one toe in the front, you know what I'm saying? All the rest of the toes is all scrunched up, and it looks cute, and it's burning the snot out there for bunions and corns and everything. And so, I was just laughing because I have like a wild imagination, but yeah, what Brother Ahwar just brought up was a side effect of stress. A lot of men don't often talk about in public, well, we don't hear it, that the levels of stress that's associated with multiple wives. And during the research, if you don't know what research we're talking about, go ahead and go to litbalm, litbalm.com, where you're looking at other cultures, reports, articles, things of that nature on the subject of multiple wives. And I must say that stress is one that comes up a lot, and for the very reasons that Ahwar brought up, that you're dealing with multiple females, women in the same space, and they're dealing in situations that's going to challenge their natural nature. We're going to talk about whether or not. So that's one of the side effects, is trying to, like you're saying, quell certain things that are going to come up, unless, you try to step for wives the whole conversation, start tinkering in the mind, and then, change the dynamic of their understanding. And I'm going to let Sister Mayanah come in on this. Then we're going to go to Ahmathyah, because Sister Mayanah did an article on whether or not this jealousy that Brother Ahwar speaks of, is that a demon? Is that a spirit? Or is that natural? So thank you so much for that, Brother Ahwar. We're going to come back to you. Sister Mayanah, you did a beautiful article on jealousy in multiple partner situations. Can you share a little light on one of the antidotes that Brother Ahwar just shared about his experience?
Absolutely. I'm glad that you brought up the Lit Balm project, the magazine that we have online at www.litbalm.com, because we have so much information up there. So it was interesting for me to hear you say that some of the critique under our YouTube videos is that there isn't any, we don't go very often or very hard on scriptures. If you're looking for us to discuss these things in terms of scripture, by all means, go to that website, because that's where you'll find all of the citations. One of the articles that Emunah is referring to, I have an article up there right now that deals specifically with language. It's 10 pages of information, but the entire document is 30 pages because there's 62 references. So if you're curious about how well researched or how well read we are on this topic, you can start with those 62 references. In terms of jealousy, there's 3 articles, I think 4 maybe, 3 articles specifically on jealousy up there now. In the first article, one of the things that I bring out is that jealousy is not necessarily natural. This idea of natural gets discussed also in the articles, but it is predictable. It is a predictable consequence or response to the behavior and circumstances that the men create when they choose this particular marriage strategy. It is not something that is abnormal. It is not. So again, I think a better word instead of natural is that it's normal. It is normal for the women to respond that way. There's very often a lot of conversation about what's natural to the man, and then no conversation about what's going to be normal to the female who you put into that position. This jealousy is normal for the woman. There's several studies out. I did more than one conference on it. There's more than one article on it. For example, the one that's done on language, the one that I just referenced to you, that has only really 10 pages of discussion, and then the remaining is citations and endnotes. I look at a minimum of 14 different languages, and that span several cultures, including Africa, Asia, and the continent, the land, and parts of Asia. And what we see here is that even embedded in the language is the idea and the expectation of contention on the part of the women. Very often the women are fed this idea that if they had not been disconnected from the culture, if they were on the continent, if they lived in a different time, if they lived under different circumstances, that they would not have jealousy. This is 1,000% unfounded. Again, if you go to the article, the evidence is abundant. What we hear is a lot of rhetoric, and that because there's no expectation that you're really going to go out and research it for yourself, and they're right. Very few women are going to go through 62 different articles and books and find this information. That's something, I would do and did. And so you don't have to. It's there. We see that this is something that is normative for the woman. That doesn't mean that a woman cannot choose not to act upon not to act upon these reactions. She can choose to not react. She can choose to create a psychology that reconciles or allows for certain behaviors, and she can choose to just kind of roll with it. We can make these kinds of decisions. We see this type of adaptation to circumstances that are uncomfortable and sometimes not in our best interest for the sake of survival. If we need to survive in the relationship, if we don't want to be without the man, and we make concessions even if it's against our own well-being. And that isn't to say that every relationship is abusive in any way. That is not what I'm trying to intimate. Obviously, there can be these situations where everyone has made these concessions and there's whatever harmony they have chosen to establish. But the fact that the intra-female jealousy or intra-female contention is reframed as, oh, she has a demon on her. Okay, that's, again, it's completely terroristic. And I'm going to continue to use the language because we need jarring language. We need it to be called something uncomfortable because it's an uncomfortable state. The men are exculpating themselves by putting all of the blame on the women, saying that the women are being irrational and the women are being abnormal or the women are being unrighteous, and not being honest or not being willing to do some introspection and say, is this something I needed to do? Is this something my family had to have? Or is this me pursuing something that I want because I have an agenda and I believe that the principal or the main objective or the main person who has any value in the family is me? And so my happiness, my satisfaction, or whatever I think the direction of wealth or what have you is how it has to be. And at that point, we are not talking about Torah. We're not talking about the will or the wants of the Creator. We are talking about the will or the wants of the man. And that is a deviation from the objective of being an Israelite to begin with. That was never our commission to be in the approval of the man. It's not the commission of the man to seek his own satisfaction. Instead, we are supposed to be wholly consumed with what the Most High has put in place for us, and we need to decide whether or not creating these kinds of family structures is truly for the Most High, and whether or not beating down or beating this into his daughter is what he would have you do. And because, from my perspective, and from the way that I have taught things, and from the perspective of Torah, the women are not being given an opportunity to understand who they are or what their purpose is inside of the community. Instead, they are given this identity of wifehood, and so they feel if you tell a person that their only position in the community is wifehood, there are no other places for her to occupy, then tell her that this is a place that is necessary for her salvation, then you are going to force her to say, okay, I will do whatever I need to do. Not necessarily because she wants to please the man, but now you have told her that it's a matter of life or death, and you have frightened her. And this is not what we build our marriages on. We don't build our marriages on fear. We don't build our marriages on this is terror. We don't do that. We don't terrorize the daughters of the Most High. We have to give the women information, which is why we write the articles that we do. We have the conversations that we do. We have the blog talks that we have, and we hold the conventions that we do, so that women are informed. The decisions the women make after they have the information, you know, may the peace of the Most High be with you. But it cannot be said that you had no access to information, and you are accountable for those decisions afterwards, because only you have to live with those consequences. So you don't have to worry about, oh, Mayanah and Emunah are going to pop out of the bushes and wag our fingers and try to shame you. But we are going to be concerned enough for you and show you enough love to say, sis, this is what the book says. This is what the culture says. And then whatever you do after that, as an informed adult, you do for you and yourself and your family and your children. I'm going to end on this note because Ima brought it up, Emunah emphasized. We have to stop being concerned about ourselves. And we're not thinking about the children that are coming behind us, the children that are involved in these marriages, in these situations, in these marriage structures. This idea of, oh, I need food, I need these women because I need field hands, or I'm going to give them fancy names like Coco and Consort, and so that I can escape these more realistic and less pretentious terms like side chick and employee and all these other things that you really mean when you brought her into your structure. And what happens then is that after you have fulfilled your take or whatever you have extracted from the woman, she now has children who have to kind of negotiate their place. And children, it's true that children are adaptable. They'll go with they can adjust if the family will allow it, but ample evidence that these types of structures, especially when they're not carefully considered, have negative repercussions on the children. And I'm not talking about just Israel. Again, the studies that I did are in East Asia. They are in Africa. They are in, ¿cómo se dice? There are 3 places that I investigated when I did the articles that I have done. So in the case of jealousy, just to bring it back to the question that was actually posed to me, it is normal for the woman to do that. The woman is normal. Stop trying to shame her. That is, you it's completely wicked. It's wicked. This is a decision that the man has made, and for him to believe there should be no repercussions, no consequences, that is absolutely, I want so much to borrow the phrase asinine.
I'm going to stir the pot now, Mayanah. Hold it, and then I'm going to come to Brother Ahmathyah. I'm stirring the pot.
Okay.
I'm asking Brother Ahwar. Brother Ahwar, did you think, what are your thoughts on what Sister Mayanah just said? Do you think that the jealousy that you experienced between the 2 women, do you think it was either normal or natural, both, or neither?
I think both, because that's everybody, jealousy is a normal reaction. But when the person try to get a gun to solve the problem, then I think that's a little more than just normal.
Oh, okay. Okay, that's a bit much. All righty then. Thank you for that. Like, that's where you get a little bit, that's now you're looking to do bodily harm. And I guess that's another conversation. That's about, self. And thank you so much for that, Sister Man. I'm going to check on Brother Ahmathyah as well as the phone lines. I know the phone lines is a little quiet. Some shows have people just, peeping in, trying to hear what's going on. I think that, when we talk about, Brother Ahwar brings up a point, and Iman Naami said it before, when we have brokenness, it just in human behavior, period. People deal with emotions differently, right? Some people implode, others explode. And if along their life they have not been given the tools or have, the ear or the ways in which to positively deal with your negative emotions, you often tend to deal with it how you've seen, whether a TV, within your family, whatever the case may be. So, some would deal with it in a negative way, as in violence. Some will be verbally abusive. You understand? Some will want to harm themselves. So we have to consider these things when we're going into spaces saying, hey, we're going to add more stress. Because you have people right now probably that happens in monogamy. It sure does. You got crazy people in all kinds of institutions. But if you say, I'm going to put someone in this space and I'm going to add more fuel to the fire, you can expect that something is going to blow up and you might end up without eyebrows. I'm just saying. But we're going to come back. We're going to check on Brother Ahmathyah and hear his thoughts. And then on the other side, as we already started to go into it, we're going to discover some more about the side effects. Brother Ahmathyah.
I mean, yeah, jealousy is a real emotion, and sometimes, a lot of the times, it's not coming from nowhere. Because when dealing with this particular kind of dynamic, you're talking about people who have different types of personalities who will relate to one another differently. So if one feels that you're not relating to her as well or as lovely and as kind and as sweet and as gentle as you're relating to the other one, then there's bound to be, some type of emotion there. There's bound to be some type of jealousy there, and if not handled properly, can get violent, and that is most definitely a negative side effect, to say the least, when it comes down to that kind of dynamic, And if we're talking about jealousy, it's real.
It's real, especially in. So and envy as well, I guess. So far, we have two side effects. We're going to check on Brother Sal. I know the phone lines is quiet. Brother Sal, what's going on over there in phone land world?
All right, we do have some callers standing by, so let's go to the phone lines. Again, that number to call in, 319-527-6239. Let's go to the phone lines. Let's go to the first caller. Let's go to 215-827. You're live on air.
Hey, shalom. It's Donar here. I see y'all got a real doozy tonight. It's a real live one. All right. Okay, I've been listening. I got on about 8:45, so I've heard enough to do my spiel. Jealousy is like, okay, when you sum it up, jealousy, the type of jealousy, jealousy is not a good fit for. It's not a good fit for a woman, and I'll say this for this reason. And you look at the mechanics and the productivity of it. Okay, now you got the jealousy of the creator. The jealousy of the creator is sovereign. Okay, no other gods, no other deities, no room, zero. It's not even up for discussion. Okay, that's productive. All right, in every sense of the word. The jealousy of man when it comes to his woman not being with another man. Okay, that's productive because it goes in line with the Creator's laws. You stay out of trouble, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We all know the story. Now, what I've observed personally, the jealousy of woman is not a good fit because of a couple reasons. And I'm talking about from personal experience that I've had, and specifically what I'm talking about is in my early 20s, well, mid-20s, when I first really started studying laws. And at that time, I had a lot of multiple, women I was dealing with. Some baby mamas, some girls, girlfriends, et cetera, et cetera. But it was more than 2, more than 3, more than 4. And through whatever methods that they knew for a fact that I was sleeping with other women, whether it's baby mama or the case may be. And they would always question me in different ways. And I'm like, well, they're like, well, the baby mamas would be like, well, why can't I meet your other baby mom? Well, I said, y'all got a lot of baggage. I said, really, y'all can't handle each other's baggage. So they said, well, don't you have baggage? It's like, what about you? I said, well, I don't really have a lot of baggage because I don't come from a perspective of what I would say emotionally damaged, meaning that, I might be a little emotionally attached. I mean detached, but I said that's a mechanism that's productive for me because and growing up, I understand what people can do. I understand what people are capable of. And a lot of times by knowing that, even if I may fall victim to some sort of swindle or whatever, whatever associated with this, this relationship thing, it's not that I wasn't emotionally invested or I really like the person, but it's like, hey, these are the things that people do. So, it's like, I take it as, okay, fine, and I move on. It's like, I don't carry that baggage with me. So, but everybody's not like that. Some people carry that baggage from a damaged, they are literally damaged on a permanent basis, and they carry that everywhere they go. Every relationship, no matter where it is, it's on them like a backpack. Okay, and then understanding that, it's like, I'm like, okay. And I'll close with this because I'll try not to take up too much time. I said, when it comes to, I said the reason why y'all can't meet is because I'm feeling the energy of you putting forth this energy to meet and become familiar with the person. But then, the second gear is going to be some form of jealousy, and then that energy is going to turn to, okay, you're going to find some kind of way to break this up. I said, so, worst case scenario is like, let's just say we all, we're living in the house together, your energy is going to be spent, on some form of jealousy that you have, which is going to be counterproductive to the situation, which means that, you're not there, you're not, mentally there for the long haul of the situation because of an issue that you have that's going to be counterproductive to the situation. And I was honest, they respected me for my honesty. They may not have liked it, but the bottom line is, if you're really assessing a person for what they really about, it comes down to that specifically, and you just got to know yourself and know who you're dealing with. And it's like, people got a lot of baggage. They have a lot of baggage to carry around like luggage. And,
okay.
It just, but I'll stop right there.
Oh, thank you for that, Brother Ashir. You always, boy, I got questions. We got callers. But real quick, Brother Ashir, so just for clarity, and thank you so much for sharing that part of your history and your life experience as it relates to the conversation that we're having for those who just joined us. Second wives, side chicks, and side effects. And right now we're speaking about the side effects. So if I heard you correctly, Brother Ashir, you said the Most High has the right to be jealous. The man, and it's for the benefit. Man has the right to be jealous, and it's for the benefit, but it's not beneficial. Just clarity, it's not beneficial for the woman to be jealous. That's what you said?
That's correct because, and I'll briefly just to elaborate on exactly what I just said. It's like the jealousy is because it doesn't fit with the natural order of quote unquote polygamy. Okay, it's not a fit because it's counterproductive to the unit. It works against everything that it stands for. That's why I say it's like it's not a good fit. But that's it.
All right. Now, we're going to discuss that when we come back around. We're going to definitely hear the panelist's thought. Thank you for that, Brother Ashir. We're going to go to the phone lines. Brother Sal, you could definitely let the next caller through.
All right, let's go to the next caller. Once again, that number is 6239. Calling via phone, via Skype, and press number 1 if you want to let your voice be heard. Let's go to the next caller, 916-747. You're live in air.
Shalom, Sal. Debate talk for you, audience. Ahwar, Emunah, Mayanah. All praise to the Most High. This is Ashanti.
Shalom, sis.
Hey, Shalom. Shalom.
Shalom. I want to say this is a pretty interesting discussion so far. Very needed topic in the community. I do have a couple of comments and then a question to end. Emunah, thank you for asking that question because that's one of the questions I had for the brother who just got off the phone. If male and female were created in the image of the Most High, and the Most High has emotions, why can't the female have the same emotions that she was equipped with from the Most High? That's a great question. We're both made in the image of the Father. Both of us create and a human being, right? So that's that. And one of the things I learned in this walk and before I got in this walk is a lot of women wear their heart down below. They wear their heart in their reproductive area. And the heart does not belong there; it belongs up top. You know what I mean? It's the utmost center part of you up top. It doesn't function well below. That's not where it's supposed to go. So that creates a lot of the issue too, as well when it comes to the side, you know, to the side chick and the sister wives. And my thing is this: who taught us what's natural for us to feel? Because a lot of things that the nation teach are natural, we know are not natural. You see what I'm saying? The nations are right now teaching that homosexuality is natural. They're teaching that being transgender is natural. So where are we getting this idea of, that's natural for men to have, but it's not natural for women to have? Who taught us what was natural and not? Are we learning these natural concepts from the nations, or are we learning them from the Most High? Are we learning them from the nations and then putting them and planting them into the spirit of the Most High? And I have had a young woman tell me that she was in a polygynous relationship. She got pregnant, and she was, quote, unquote, sent away with no papers, and she had the baby, and there's no man around. And she said, you know what, these sisters are getting forced to do this thing that they don't want to do. Now, my question is, why force a sister who doesn't want to do something into what she doesn't want to do? When there's plenty of sisters out here who are already into the polygyny thing, why don't you want to go get them? You know, I was told one wife is enough. You know what I'm saying? One wife is enough. We got to deal with you. You know what I mean? But my last question is this. My question for marriage. Where are we getting the concept of marriage from in the first place? Are these teachers of polygyny vetted to check their marriage life? Have they been divorced? What kind of relationship did they have with their mom, their grandma, their aunties? Did they have a father figure in their life? You know what I mean? Are we checking these teachers to see where they're coming from and what their life attitude and actions display? You know, so if they're teaching, you need to have a wife or two or three, are we vetting them to see what they're doing? Are we vetting them to see if they're working? Are we vetting them to see if they're going to have our best interest at heart? Are we seeing, are they trying to implement what the scripture says, that one wife is loved and the other wife is hated, which means less loved? So that's my questions. Are we vetting? And where do we get this idea of marriage from? Because the whole thing is, this is what I'll say lastly, men, all men out there, I want to ask y'all a question, because us women, between the age of 5, 6, and 7, we're given dolls, we're given kitchen sets, we're taught, we're given cleanup sets and everything, right? It's programmed with the toys. But we're programmed from that age on for marriage. We're prepared. all the men out there, have you guys been properly prepared by anyone you had in your family, your home? Were you guys prepared for marriage? Did anybody give you the intricacies? And I yield after that. I'll praise to the Most High.
All right. Now, Sister Ashanti done came through. She just like, homework. We hope we got our pens and papers out, because she asked some real important questions that go along with this conversation and even, beyond. Things that are presenting challenges in relationships. Again, for those who have just tuned in, this is the Relationship Challenge. We're talking today about second wives, side chicks, and side effects. And if you're new to the Relationship Challenge, you're going to have a little time as we go on break to familiarize yourself with. So far, we've been talking a lot about man and woman relationships, but we're expanding that in this season to talk about relationship between brothers and sisters, sisters and sisters, family, no, correct relationships, though. I'm just talking about as family relationships, about how we deal with the issues and how do we overcome them. So, again, if you're out there and you're pressing 1 because you want to answer some of Ashanti's questions, feel free to do so at this time. We're going to go to Brother Sal. Once again, thank you, Sister Ashanti. Very excellent questions. We're going to go to Brother Sal to see who else is on the phone line. Brother Sal.
All right, let's go to 253-223. You're live on air. 253-223. Can you hear me? Are you there? 253-223. Going once. Going twice. All right, we're going to have to move on. Let's go to 865-282. You're live on air.
Hey, peace and blessing to everybody. This is Brother Eliyahu with IGIC Knoxville. We're actually going to be on the show this Thursday, breaking down the mysteries of the Kingdom of God. And I just wanted to call in because those of you that are looking for multiple wives and things like that, you're going to have trouble in the flesh. So I just wanted to share a couple of scriptures, and peace unto you, Sal, and everybody else on the show. Peace, family.
Shalom. Mm-hmm.
Shalom. I wanted to share this. This is 1 Corinthians chapter 7, and I'm going to start at verse 25. It says, "Now concerning virgins, I have no commandment of the Lord, yet I have my judgment, as one that hath ordained mercy of the Lord to be faithful. I suppose, therefore, that this is good for the present distress, I say, that it is good for a man to be. Art thou bound unto a wife? Seek not to be loosed. Art thou loosed from a wife? Seek not a wife. And if thou marry, thou hast not sinned, and if a virgin marry, she hath not sinned. Nevertheless, such shall have trouble in the flesh, but I spare you." So, the mystery of the kingdom of heaven is that, it's like a mustard seed. It's a little bitty mustard seed. It starts the least and then grows into the greatest, you see. And the Son of Man, he's the one who sows the good seed. And the good seed are the children of the kingdom of heaven. So we need to make sure that when we're getting married for a relationship and we're getting married for love, but we're supposed to be being fruitful and multiplying and filling the world and the face of the earth with fruit. So we're supposed to be having children. And I'm shocked that more people aren't calling in tonight because, people who hide in the darkness, everything's going to come out into the light. And the hidden treasure of the kingdom of heaven is going to be manifested as well, who are the children of God and who are the children of the devil. But I just wanted to call in, and I just wanted to tell you, those of you that are out there who are wanting to have sexual relations, and you need to do it in marriage, because according to Hebrews chapter 13, it says a marriage bed is honorable and undefiled in all things, but whoremongers and adulterers God will judge. So I know most of the people that talk about having these multiple wives and having, more than one wife and so forth, these are people who always want to be teachers, or they're preachers, or they're bishops, or they're deacons, or whatever. The scripture tells you without the shadow of a doubt that you can only be the husband of one wife, period, to start off there. Second of all, I haven't seen many men at all that are mature enough to deal with one woman, let alone two women, let alone having children with two different women and filling his household with the seed of God and can't put bread in their mouth because they're not making enough money and they're not responsible enough to keep a job, or they don't have a career or a business or a community to help support them, and a family structure unit in order to help them prosper and be successful in that endeavor to bring the fruit of God into this world. So I just wanted to put that on the table because people leave. I heard the sister earlier, and she brought up the children. And that's exactly what it's about. And we need to make sure that we're bringing children into the world, number one, because there's a lot of people trying to keep the children of God from coming into the world. And number two, that we're begetting children through the gospel of truth, that we're teaching the gospel of the Lord Jesus Christ and bringing people into rebirth into the family of God. With that said, peace and blessing unto all. I hope that you tune in this Thursday and on the show. And I love all you, and a blessing unto you.
All right. Thank you to the caller for calling in and letting your voice be heard concerning this topic. For those who have just tuned in, we're having the conversation, second wives, side chicks, and side effects. If you missed the first hour, we were talking about the whole process, the things that have happened are continuing to happen. You know, we're just having discussions between brothers and sisters about the real, and then we can take it from there. If we don't acknowledge where we are, then we're going to be off course on that return. So we have to acknowledge, again, this is not beating up. Oftentimes in the community, I notice this polarization. There's a polarization on topics that the Torah is not straightforward on, or it is, you need more from it. And so right away people get in their little camps and they go to little corners and you're pro this and you're anti that, and it's like, okay, come to the table and have a conversation about the real so that the people, as Sister Mayanah said earlier, can make their own informed decisions. Because if you remember in the Torah, when there were situations concerning, for instance, the man who was picking up the sticks on Shabbat, and they brought it to Moshe, Moshe didn't just jump up and say, ah! No, Moshe was like, whoa, okay, let's go ahead and inquire of the Most High to see what should be done with it. You see? Because not every situation that came up was like, aha, I have a law. A lot of the law that we have is because that something happened and they inquired of the Creator, and then this became a precedent. And so we seem to oftentimes miss that. Show me chapter and verse. We also miss the fact that you had intermediaries who were able to converse, to inquire of the Creator. And so on a situation such as this where there is mention of it, but there is a declaration, and we see instances along the Torah that this is what people have done, it doesn't mean that this is what you were told to do. And so if we come to the table and we say, some people say, this is what I'm going to do, and there are things that happen as a result of you doing that, then it's only honest and genuine and truthful to sit down and be, forthcoming about what you did and what happened as a result. So this is what we're doing. Hopefully, it's received in that way. It's not anyone beating up on any particular person, but it's about not doing the same things and getting the same results, and then advising other people to do the same thing so they can get the same results. Like that's low tova, as they would say, not good. So I'm going to go to Brother Sal and see if anyone else is on the phone line, and we're going to come back to the panel. Brother Sal.
All right, the title of the show, Second Wives, Side Chicks, and Side Effects. Make sure you call it. That number, 319-527-6239. We do have some more callers standing by. Let's go to the phone lines. Go to 724-518. You're live on air.
Shalom, shalom, family. This is Sister Angela, also known as Mulata. And I just want to say all praises to the Most High. And it's nice to hear you guys radio without me necessarily having to say something. That's cool. I just wanted thinking about Deuteronomy 23:17, where it says that we're not to make whores of the daughters of Israel or the daughters of Zion, and also thinking about First Thessalonians. I think it's 4:17. I might have the verse wrong. I definitely First Thessalonians, and I believe it's the 4th chapter. But it speaks about not defrauding one another, not defrauding a brother, especially in sexual matters. And so my thought is this. I was listening to the brother speaking earlier about the situation, real-life situation he had with baby mamas wanting to meet each other. And I thought it was really interesting, his perspective on that whole situation. And what I would say is I would like it very much so if some of my brothers out there listening would consider the possibility that carrying on relationships with women where you're not making them a wife, but you're just basically enjoying them and then moving on to the next situation is actually part of what damages the woman. It is part of what creates the brokenness, because daughters are meant to be esteemed and cherished, and they're meant to be assets to a house. They're meant to build a house. They're meant to basically continue the family, continue the legacy of a house. And so to just have a baby with a woman and then move on to the next woman, and to not consider that you're playing a part or role in her brokenness, and to then consider yourself to be son of the Most High and even a minister or an elder of some type, it's a little confusing to me, because how can one work towards the building of Yahweh's house or kingdom, yet tearing down those that are assets or could be assets in his house or kingdom? I think that's kind of oxymoronical. It doesn't make sense to me. I just wanted, to kind of put that out there, like maybe we might want to consider that. Every time I go into a relationship and I leave that relationship, am I leaving that person broken? Am I leaving them better off than when I found them, or am I leaving a shambles that now someone else has to come behind me and prayerfully reconstruct or fix? Now the Most High has to heal this woman because of what I did or what I basically brought about. Many times I hear men say, that they're the leaders. And if that's the case, that would mean that a man is the leader in the relationship, that he sets the tone for the nature of that relationship, whether it's going to be edifying or beneficial, or whether it's going to be destructive, toxic. So I just think there's some responsibility and accountability that needs to be considered. Not that the woman is without responsibility for considering the type of relationship she gets into, but definitely a brother, I think, should be accountable for what he does in a relationship, and if he's part of breaking a woman who, is purpose to be a daughter of the Most High and a builder of the kingdom and a raiser of the standard and the banner through the birth of children and the raising of children in the Most High. I just think that's something that really needs to be considered, needs to be thought about with care before we just move on to the next one and the next one and the next one. Because that to me, that looks like a tearing down of the kingdom, not a building up of the kingdom. And then the last thought that I wanted to kind of leave out there is that, it's just scientifically proven that men and women's neurotransmitters in the brain fire differently. When a person dies and they do an autopsy, if they take the brain out and put the brain somewhere and have someone inspect or examine that brain, they can tell whether that brain belongs to a man or a woman. And so I say that to say that men and women don't go through every experience. They don't process experiences the same. And so what may seem like a small thing to a man may be a devastating, destructive thing emotionally to a woman. And so the scripture tells us, and I believe this is in Ephesians, that a man is to dwell with a woman in understanding. It says he's to dwell with his wife in understanding and acknowledging her as the weaker vessel. So if I'm doing things as a man that are emotionally devastating to my wife and I'm saying, well, this shouldn't be a big deal to her, this, she's not being logical or she's not being reasonable, am I dwelling with her in understanding? I could be just inviting situations into my home and into my marriage that ultimately are going to affect my children and their growth and their development, which ultimately is the goal of a marriage, is to the raising of offspring. And so anyway, there was just a couple of thoughts I wanted to leave out there. And thank you for letting me share. And I'm enjoying hearing you all share. And it's a great topic. And all praises to the Most High.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. That was the voice of Sister Malaka. Great points. Questions floating all in the air. Don't worry, panelists. We're coming to check on you. We're going to go to another phone call, and then we're going to check on the panelists and come back to the phone callers. So if you are just tuning in wondering what in the world are these people talking about today, the conversation is second wives, side chicks, and side effects. And we're kind of diving into these side effects, things to consider, to think about, looking for other people to process or the other party to process the information in a way in which you are processing the information. Is that realistic? Expecting that if they poke you, you should say ouch, but if you poke them, they should just rub it and, hope that it goes away. Are our expectations realistic? All the things that we're talking about here today. Brother Sal, let's check on the phone callers, and then we're going to check on the panelists.
All right, let's go back to 253-223. You're live in the air. 253-223. Can you hear us? 253, are you there? All right, got to move on. Let's go to 313-695. You're live in the air.
Shalom. Emunah, how are you and Sal? This is Iman Yahudi. It's a very interesting conversation.
Hello, Iman.
Oh, Mayanah, good afternoon, good evening. Yes, this is a very interesting subject because, I was a product. My dad had two women. He married one, and he had my mother, might as well say, but he helped put her in a house. She worked. My stepmother worked, and he made it work. But he knew the responsibility, and at that time it was different in the 60s. But what I really want to address is nowhere in the scriptures for a man to have more than one wife. They utilize Solomon, and they don't understand the circumstances. They don't understand the time, the why, and the when. Solomon was a wealthy man. He was a king. In this nation that we live in, we're not. This is a foreign nation to us. So for any man to think that he can handle more than one woman and can balance, he's like the brother had said, he has to have a business, a job, and not just a job. Can he mentally, stably satisfy both women? We're not talking about sexually, but just the needs that a woman. And we need to heal from that. Women, we need to do the research. Women, we need to love ourselves and understand that with this polygamy, it's far more issues than you ever know. It was not meant for polygamous relationships among the masses. Do the research. Find out for yourself. Even though I come from that, there were some pitfalls, such as you got to call your dad and he doesn't live with you. But that's how much control, because that was my dad. He never neglected me. But it was very difficult. His wife accepted my mother. And they became friends. But they lived in two separate households. What man today can do that? I haven't heard of any. Two separate households and took care of two separate households. Today, and this is the truth, some men, because I don't know, I can't even take care of one household. Let's just be honest. And like the brother said, they're either preachers or ministers because they want some kind of honor, some type of control. Because we're so sick in our pursuit. When we open our eyes, we think that we should control a woman or have many women. And women need to understand that because we're in captivity, not that there's not enough men. Oh, there's a lot of men around. It's just they're sick too. They have issues. They need healing just like you do. And this is why we're in this situation. Until we as a people heal and recognize, and it's not easy to change. It's not easy to adjust to something that you have been taught. Like one sister said, well, this woman had a baby and then she was left by herself. Well, that's in our community. That's not, quote, unquote, a conscious Israelite community. That's our community. So we must stop and think sometimes when we leap into a relationship, and then you have these men, once we have sex, we're married. That has been around since time. It's not right. Like prostitution isn't correct, but this is what they do. Homosexuality, another sister brought up, it's never right in the eyes of the Most High, both male or female. We know this. So the issue here is, do you think enough of yourself and love yourself? Situation of a polygamous relationship, or a relationship where the man is not a man. And the man isn't necessarily, yes, he provides. But how does he communicate with other people, with his job, with his family? I go back to the old ways. How do he present himself among people? That's what's important. Sisters, we need to heal. And sometimes we need to sit back and be alone for a while and meditate. That's the only suggestion I have. Because until we understand who we are, truly are as the people, then we can move forward. And we can truly understand these issues that we have to heal. J-Hope.
All right now. Thank you so much. That was the voice of Emunah. She came and brought a little fire tonight, a little spice on the conversation. For those who
yes, ma'am.
She brought a little Tabasco sauce tonight. Let me find out, Emunah. For those who just joined us, we are having a conversation. Again, this is not, we would love to hear from, we're hearing from different sides. Actually, we're hearing from personal experiences, and people have different experiences. You heard Emunah, she's saying this is back in the 60s. This is not a new concept. I would go on my slavery spiel, but I'm not going to do that to you guys tonight. I'm kind of tired. It kind of gets me hyped when I do, but maybe another time to dispel some of these concepts about the slave master forcing you to do. Yeah. That right there, we'll definitely have to have some conversations about that. But as it relates to something, like she said, it's nothing new. It's not just the conscious community. This is our community at large. It's something that exists. We are dealing with the fallout, as I like to say, from it, from these ideals, these ideologies, what exactly we think we're doing when we're procreating, how much responsibility do we have, to what point, do we drop the ball when it no longer becomes comfortable for us. As the brother who called in spoke about, raising children onto the Creator. Like, is that the concept that you have in your mind when you go and say, yes, no, I'm going to pick up this daughter of Zion? Is that what you're thinking? Yes, I'm going to plant seeds here and raise up children for the Most High? Or is this I like her, and, we'll make her Ma'isha? These are all of the things that come into play when we're having discussion. But I have not forgotten the panelists. I'm going to check on Brother Ahmathyah. Then we're going to check on Brother Ahwar, see if he got any more stories for us. Check on Sister Mayanah, and then back to the phone lines. Brother Ahmathyah, are you still there? Are you sleeping? Let us know.
No. I'm most definitely here. Very interesting. Very interesting. I don't even know where to begin as far as commenting on some of the things that I heard. But I will say, without I'm not going to comment too much on what the brother who called in earlier, who talked about the jealousy not being fit for a woman. I can't comment too much about his situation because I don't know his specific dynamic, but I can comment and will comment on the main point that he was talking about. And I think that his thought illustrates a common disbelief that polygamy or polygyny specifically is the right to every man to have, which is why, according to his belief, that it's not a good fit for a woman to be jealous because, we understand why the Creator is jealous because, we can't have any other God other than him. We understand why a man should be jealous because his woman cannot have another man. Nevertheless, a woman shouldn't be jealous because, there's this automatic assumption that just because you are a man, because because you have a penis, that gives you the right to as many vaginas as you can hold. When fortunately, that's actually not the case. Just because you are a man, the Lord does not give you the right just to go out there and to have another woman. So there are plenty of examples or right situations, I should say, where if a woman is jealous because of a man doing something that he's not supposed to be doing with another woman, she is rightfully jealous. There is something that women will normally talk about more than men do, and I think me personally, and I will probably say other men as well, will have had harder times understanding this concept where women will come and say, well, that he emotionally cheated on me. Sometimes we as men, we will limit cheating to simply just a physical act, and which is true. Technically, when you look at the technical definition of what it is to commit adultery and to cheat, but when you raise the bar a little bit, and women will sometimes talk about emotionally cheating, she understands that you didn't cheat physically, on her necessarily, but there are certain aspects of yourself that you fail to share with her that you did share with another woman, and she will find herself in the situation where she is jealous because of that, and rightfully so. It's like I said, it's not the case just because you're a guy, all of a sudden you think that it's your right, it's your God-given right, it's your divine right to have another woman simply because it's Thursday or Saturday, or you throw a dart at the calendar and say, well, whatever day this dart lands on is the day I'm going to go out there and find me a second woman. No, it doesn't work that way. A woman can be jealous, but there are times when she is jealous. You made her jealous, and you made her jealous justly. And the sister who spoke on and called earlier, who spoke about baggage, going off of what that same brother said, and I'm sure he said it in the spirit of love, and I appreciate his call. She was absolutely correct in saying that there are many times when women who do have baggage, it is because of the fault of the men, and we cannot alleviate ourselves of that kind of responsibility and say, well, this woman, yes, she has baggage, but sometimes you played a part in that. There are times when she will meet a man with, she will meet another man because of the baggage that she has. Well, I shouldn't say because of I shouldn't say because, but she will meet a man already carrying baggage, from a previous relationship that was caused by another man, and he didn't see that, or maybe he did, or just didn't care, walked off nonchalant, concerning it, and he saw the damage that he was causing because of his actions to this woman, but he just didn't care, and that right there is evil. There's no other way that no other word that I can use to describe it. Sometimes, a lot of times, when women do have that baggage, it is the man's fault. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes she's just crazy. But there are times, and plenty of times, that, it is our fault that she does have that baggage, and especially when we don't take the time out to backtrack and to see if we can heal, if we can help her heal, especially for the cause of that baggage, if we could make amends, if we can help her find closure, if we can help her, by coming to her and saying, listen, I'm sorry, I didn't see how this was going to affect you. I can't unring that bell, but, moving forward, maybe we can handle it in this way or in that fashion so that we can heal. And that common belief that simply because I'm a man, I'm entitled to have more than one wife just because I can. That I think that also is an issue that has to be dealt with. And with that, I'll yield the floor. Thank you.
All right, we're letting our voices be heard today, respectfully, of course. Thank you to all who have called in. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to press 1 at this time. We're going to check on Brother Ahwar now. Thank you for that, Ahmathyah. Yeah, we're challenging. We have opposing views here. You know, I'm hearing a lot of interesting things. Makes for an interesting conversation. We're going to come to Brother Ahwar, see if he has any more tidbits for us. We heard a whole lot. We had some questions on the table, some statements, some inquiries. Brother Ahwar, what are your thoughts?
I want to give some understanding and a confession, right? Now, there's a text in the New Testament with the Lamb. We call him Yahushua. Some people say G, whatever. Well, there was a moment one time where this woman, saw him and she took her hair and she took some oil and started, with her hair started, oiling him down. And the disciples like, look, man, let's take that oil and sell it. Take that oil and sell it, man. And he's like, nah, hold up. I'm just putting it like, it was an our time. He said, no. Y'all always got me. Let me have this moment right here. That's what that was about. So I remember one time when I was out, and this pretty girl walked up to me, and she said, you're a nice-looking guy. And she said, I want you, but she said, I got a man, so I can't have you, but I tell you what I'm going to do. She said, pick out any one of these pretty women. I'm going to go get her for you. Now, nothing went down from that, but you know what? I like that. I like it was my moment, and it wasn't about a lust thing or anything. And so I said all that to say this. Sometimes, too, when men get that other woman or that side chick, they want to have that moment of their time where they're reminded of their worth. It's not always because of a physical thing or the intimate. Sometimes they just want to have their time and their moment. I just wanted to put that out there so some women can understand that too, because that's a certain thing that women will never understand about men. Not all the time when a man desires another woman, it's for sexual reasons. Sometimes it's just for that. It's for minutes. Sometimes he like the way she talks. Sometimes she make him feel a little better than you do. So I just wanted to put that on the board. I just wanted to share that.
Brother Water, you just fireworks late in the comment. I know I'll be wrapping up Brother Water. You know what? Okay. I'm gonna stick a pin on that one. Interesting. Fascinating. Mayanah.
No, I'm taking that pin right out. All right, so now it's not just lust, it's ego and pride.
Go ahead.
So now we're not just talking about lust, we're talking about ego and pride. Okay, which is great. I'm not going to take from any person the idea that they want to feel valued and they enjoy being appreciated or all of these other things. However, that is not what you build a family on. These women, okay, and I this is another thing that I think doesn't get stressed, is that after she has finished rubbing your ego, she's still a person. And she is going to need something. Once you have given her whatever moniker you're going to give her, be it side chick, be it consort, be it the concubine, the coco, or whatever cutie euphemisms you have for this other woman, she's a full person. And that she's going to have other things going on other than rubbing your toe. After she's done that, she's going to need things. And what I have seen, and this is what I have seen that I find disturbing, it may not be the case in every household, is that she then becomes since it is the 10 o'clock hour, Emunah, can I have permission to discuss the side effects?
I tell them as long as we keep it clean and professional.
One of the, you know how we do. One of the known side effects of this kind of situation is that she becomes the responsibility of the primary wife. She's no longer the responsibility of the man that introduced her to the family. For him, she is what Ahwar has described. She is the one that is affirmation for his ego. She has confirmed his worth, and she has provided her body to him. But now, all of her concerns, if she needs someone to talk to, that's the first wife's problem. If she needs someone to share her feelings, I'm putting this in air quotes, you can't see me, but trust me, I'm doing that, her feelings, then that's not for him, that's for the legitimate wife. That's what the other women have to deal with. And so the man isn't actually engaged in any of the husbandry of this other woman. Instead, that task goes to the woman. I have seen, now again, this is not just research, these are things that I have seen. I know plenty of these families, and I've spoken to many of these women. And so the first wife, the legitimate wife or the primary wife, has to find herself doing things in terms of negotiating and managing the other women. And their feelings and their concerns, and time management, who's going to even how they study. The women are studying together. They're discussing things together. They're shopping together. They're in this very platonic but very real relationship with each other. And the man just kind of pops in when it's time to do whatever is convenient or beneficial for him. But all of these other very pragmatic, very practical, very day-to-day things are being done without him. So he gets a sort of permission to disengage from the family union, and the women are on their own to negotiate these things. And because the man feels that he's able to disconnect in this way, he's able to have this position where they all just look emotional. It's very easy to be the logical one when you're not the one under any stress. When you're not the one. So we heard the caller say it's not a good fit. It's not a good fit for him. Or the jealousy is inconvenient for the man. It's not that it's not normal. It's not that it's not justified. It's not that it's not predictable. It's inconvenient for what he wants to do. He wants polygamy, and so he says that this jealousy is inconvenient for that end goal for him. And that's when we go back to one of the things I was saying before about this idea of the man becoming the principal instead of the Most High. That what the man wants, what the man's agenda and objective, that becomes the goal, which it was never supposed to be. It has to always be about the family. The woman, there's no such thing as a polygamous woman. Women don't marry each other. A woman is always going to be monogamous. She's always going to have one partner. So by telling these women that they are in polygamy, that is never true. Not from a Hebraic construct. There's no man that in a Hebrew context is going to allow for the woman to marry another woman. That happens in other societies. There is something called polyandry, and it functions for its reasons in those spaces. But we don't even have anything that approaches that type of marriage strategy. And so to tell women, for women to tell themselves or to tell other women that they are involved in polygamy, this is inaccurate in every sense of the word. That is not what's happening. You have one spouse, that's that man. That woman is not supposed to be the other woman's responsibility. She is supposed to be that man's responsibility. Allowing the man to disengage from the family in that way is not productive. The brother spoke about productivity and things that are conducive. Having the man outside of the family is not conducive. Very often we're saying that we want to include this marriage strategy in our communities, in our melanated communities. As Ima stated, it's not unique to Israel, even the conscious community. As I said it earlier, it's one of the things that has been considered from the entire melanated community, and over a great deal of time, as Emunah said, it does span. There's some certain things we need to understand about slavery, certain things we need to understand about the 60s and 70s. We have a lot of bad information about both of these particular eras, and a lot of misinformation that has cause damage. And whenever we try to attack it and discuss it, we get a lot of pushback. And, luckily for the listening audience, Emunah and I don't care. We're going to continue to give you information and verify these facts. So the purpose in me saying a lot of what I'm saying right now is that when we began to entertain the notion of this particular marriage strategy and allowing women should come in and kind of attach themselves to one man because there's this assumed deficit of men, it's because we feel like there should be a man in the household, that our children deserve to have fathers, that we deserve to have, and this is true. I want to start by saying that it's absolutely true. There's ideally, and according to the way and the will and the purpose that the Most High put together, this is absolutely what our family structure should look like. There should be no woman raising her child by herself. If the man was there to conceive with you, that man should be there to raise that child with you. That's definitely our goal. But here's the problem. If the goal is introducing the man into the household because we understand that we don't need women raising our children, having that man disengage and adding more women to the household is counterintuitive. If the idea is that we need to have the male actively engaging the child, actively engaging the woman, actively involved and present in the family, then by adding more women, creating more feminine principles and adding more children and offsetting this kind and creating this kind of imbalance, that's bad math. That's not intelligent. I withdraw that last statement because it could be offensive. It's bad math. It's bad math, and there's some more thought that could be put into what we're doing. If we're going to say that we have a particular issue and it needs to be addressed, and we should examine our solutions and make sure that they are as well thought out as they need to be. Again, not just in the moment, not because we have ego, pride, and other maybe lust or whatever else to consider, but because we have children. And this has to be a sustainable union. There's a whole host of reasons why this idea of there being a male deficit is not, there's faulty logic to it, and there's bad information, and there's a lot of bad math involved in it. Again, there's an article or two or three. Emunah has written a number of articles as well on polygamy and polygyny and the like. And we encourage you to go and look at all of that material at your leisure. So I will end on that the callers and the panel have all given the listening audience a lot of things to consider. We have our biblical blueprint. We see the conditions under which the men have engaged in this process, and there's a lot of scriptures that are used that are not being used properly. And, again, we do go over that in a lot of these articles. So we're not trying to run from giving you scriptures. In fact, this is not the very first conversation we had of it. If you go and check the catalog or the work on it, just by going to the Debate Talk for You, if you subscribe to the YouTube channel, then you will see that we have dealt with this topic several times across the last 3 seasons. You'll find a lot of really good information. And as always, you can contact us. Emunah and I have an email address, which is under the palm, the number 2, @gmail.com. If you're interested in getting more information, if you want to reach out to us, we have been very much available to anyone who's willing to sit down and have a conversation. So not to be overlong, I'll end on that.
For that was the voice of Sister Mayanah. We're at the 10 o'clock hour, so if y'all know me, we're going to wind down a little bit. We're going to go to the callers, see if anyone has anything. Hold on, baby. The baby over here reading herself a bedtime story now. We're going to go to the callers and see if anyone has anything else to add to the conversation. If you do, try to kind of wind it down, kind of condense the conversation, whatever it is that you have to share. We definitely want to hear your voice, and then we're going to come for our closing statement. So, Brother Sal, do we have any more callers on the line?
All right, family. Once again, that number to call in is 319-527-6239. We're going to go to the phone lines. You can also send me an email at debatetalkforyou@gmail.com, and I'll read out your questions. Let's go to 443-815. You're live on air.
Yeah, this is Brother Mercy. Hello, Debate Talk for You. I just wanted to say that I guess I'm going to put a little different spin on it real quick. I know we keep talking about the men and their desire, but I've kind of seen it from another perspective. I've talked to different women, interviewed them, and they said they will go after a married man because they feel that that woman is happy with them, and they want to be happy, so they figure he's experienced and know how to make a relationship work, so they will go after that man. Now, this is coming from a woman. This is not coming from a man, so that woman has to desire that man to some extent. So it just ain't all on the man. The woman has to agree with it and has to go along with it, and in many cases, they pursue it. So, I mean, don't get me wrong now. I mean, I understand the men that try to force women, but I'm talking about the women that willingly do these type things. There are women out here that willingly do these, and they go after married men. So I just wanted to say that because there is that's out there. But I just wanted to put that out there that a lot of times this is why I know I will never understand how a woman thinks, because I would never go after a woman with another man to take his happiness. That's not something I would do. But women do that. So I don't understand that, but that's what they do, some of them. And, men do crazy stuff I never understand too. But I'm just saying I've seen it from both angles. So I just want to know what the panelists think about the women who go after married men because they feel that man knows. I mean, because, look, Solomon had all these wives. I'm pretty sure some of them wanted to be married to Solomon. I mean, so they probably saw him with his wealth, his wisdom, and whatever the case may be, they willingly went along with it. So Solomon had no problem adding to multiplying his wives. It wasn't a struggle. So I just wanted to say, why wasn't a struggle for Solomon? You know what I'm saying? So why didn't women stand up and say, oh, no, we can't go along with this. We need to, But that's all I wanted to say. That's my question to the panelists. What do you think about those women who willingly go along with polygamy? So that's all I'd say.
Thank you for that. That was the voice of Brother Mercy. And I would agree with Brother Mercy as it relates to seeing these situations in real life, as well as studying about these situations. He's absolutely correct. And I was actually thinking about that, like the conversation is kind of leaning, and I'm glad he came in and brought that balance to it, because there is another side of it. There are women who don't need to be convinced. There are women who solely go after men who are already in relationships for many reasons, a plethora of reasons. So with that, I would say, usually I'd be like, what's Brother Mercy going to say now? But with that one, I would have to say that I agree with you, Brother Mercy. That is the other side of the coin. Any other panelists like to weigh in on that before we go to the next caller?
This is Mayanah. I would agree also, because, and I think that we discussed that to some extent earlier in the show when we said, for example, Sister Ashanti called in and she said, why force women who are not interested in this particular marriage strategy when there are women who are willing to participate in this paradigm? And so it's not, although we're grateful that Brother Mercy did bring that back onto the table. We've been kind of piggybacking off of what's happening on the panel. And that's where the consensus was right now. The men are taking some accountability. And so, as always, we encourage accountability among the men. But it's absolutely correct that there are women who, in the world and in the truth and in other conscious spaces and just in women in general, we don't want to limit this to the melanated peoples. In fact, they will look for someone that's already ready-made. There's a lot of the texts that I have read. There's women who do not want to be full-time wives. That the fact that the man has someone else who's going to tend to him, and that she doesn't have that responsibility, that's appealing. There are women that find that very appealing, and there are women who, as the brother said, will consider that if the woman that he is with looks happy, then she will covet that happiness and wants it for herself. And so she will pursue the man with that in mind. But again, that type of then we have to think about whether or not that is a righteous mentality. The fact that there are women that have this mentality doesn't mean that that is righteous either, to covet the happiness of another person and say, well, because she has it and this man provided, I want what she has. Is that necessarily a righteous thought? Is it that that kind of implies that there are no other men that she can cultivate happiness with based on her own merits. That man has made, the other woman is a factor in that relationship. Whatever symmetry, whatever synergy, whatever investment that woman made in the relationship may have contributed to why that relationship looks greener from her perspective. That woman participated in the relationship and cultivated something with her husband. And for another woman to come on the outside and say, well, you may be the one that studied with him, but I want to go to the prom, that's not necessarily a good thing. So I think that we need to have those considerations as well and look at the fullness of the dynamic. We have, I think that one of the things that I was very intrigued to find when I was perusing through the trenches is that there is, prayerfully this is a hoax, but there is some kind of advertising by a sister who is saying that the side chick is a viable option for married men, and that they should come and solicit her services. And there are many women who are outraged by this. The sisters, the wives, be they first wives, second wives, or what have you, the idea that any sister would even in jest suggest that a man should solicit this type of temporary service, and that any woman would offer it, was completely was disturbing, to put it mildly. But and the popularity of this woman speaks to a malady among the masculine principle that can be so easily seduced by such a suggestion. And so, I don't want to take away any time from the callers, but again, the fact is that women will, in some spaces and under certain conditions, call these things down on herself. This is where the man, it would be amazing, it would be great for the man to say, yo, sis, think that, think that over. Think that over. But the men aren't doing that. And we talk if the women need to regain her sense of preciousness. We need to regain our sense of value. And because we are trying so desperately in many cases to re-win the favor of our men who have made it known to us in many cases, not all cases, and I'll take this time to appreciate and thank all of the brothers who this does not apply to. And I want to say there are many, many brothers this does not apply to. But for those, in whatever number they exist, who have made it appear as if the woman is replaceable, and that she needs to compromise herself in whatever ways is necessary to regain his favor, this has been detrimental. It has been injurious, and the recovery of the daughters of Zion has been slowed by this. I'm sorry, did someone have something to say? Hello?
That sounded like the voice. Thank you for that, Sister Mayanah. That sounded like the voice of Brother Ahwar. Did you want to chime in before we went back to the call?
Oh, no, I was talking to something else. I'm sorry.
Okay, no.
Yeah.
I was done. Let's go to the callers.
All right, thank you for that, Sister Mayanah. Thank you for the caller who called in, Brother Mercy, bringing that other side, as you did say, Sister Ashanti brought it up, and then we kind of like pushed it to the side, then it came back to the middle. That was a good catch. Brother Sal, anyone else on the phone lines?
All right, let's go back to the phone lines. Let's go to, I believe this is a Skype caller. Can you hear me? Live and air.
Shalom.
Oh, okay. Hi, this is Deborah. I'm just calling in because I was listening, and this is always a very interesting topic. I always talk with Elder Mayanah in regards to let me move my cell phone and hear a echo about this what she likes to call dysfunctional David. One thing I don't hear anybody talking about is relationships with the children. One thing that specifically has stood out to me that no one's addressed was sexual abuse in between the children. One scripture that comes out is the relationship with Amnon, Tamar, and Absalom. Like, one thing that one of the brothers called in and talked about is we're not thinking about the children. Like, what happens when the children relate? If you are in a relationship that's polygynous, and because I know that not every polygynous relationship is abusive, but a lot are, or a lot make a woman second-class citizen. If you are seeing your mom being second-class or in competition with other females for your daddy, how are you viewing your sisters? How are you viewing your brothers? This is your brother and sister. It is against Torah for you to lay with your brother and your sister. But what happened in the king's household? Amnon was lusting his sister, and instead of the advisor telling him what Torah says and telling him to stay in his lane and get some prayer, some help, some healing, get a wife, something, he set his sister up to be sexually assaulted. That's mess. And then daddy did nothing. Nothing. Zero. And then Absalom decided to go and sleep with all of daddy's concubines as part of his revenge. That's all mess. Like, if you're going to be in this type of relationship, it should be in accordance to Torah. You should be raising your children to respect each other and respect the genders. Because David is supposed to be the epitome of the Israelite man. Every Israelite man wants to be like David for the most part. Everybody talks about David. But do they want David's mess? He had 8 wives. He had the finances. There's a lot of people in Torah who have a wife, but she's on welfare. That's mess. Like, everybody wants to stone people who are eating shrimp. Are you going to stone the brother who has the wife on welfare? These are things that we have to consider. Now, one more thing before I hang up. The brother who said that he was comparing his relationship with some girl he met that picked another woman with Mary and Lazarus and the alabaster box. We need to have some more clarity on that one. But that's all I wanted to say. Like, a lot of the things that are happening in Israel, nobody is thinking about the generation you're leaving behind and how they are going to view each other and treat each other. Are they going to look at each other as potential husband, wife, or are they going to look at each other as sister and brother, or what are they doing? Like, what are you teaching them? What legacy are you leaving behind? Are you worried about fulfillment of self, or are you really worrying about fulfilling the kingdom of Yah and being fruitful and multiplying? And that's all I have to say. Shalom, I yield.
All right, thank you for that. That was the call, I believe, Sister Deborah. You know, that's something that, she did it for me today, so I could just go ahead and chill. But, you brought up a topic and a conversation that in other spaces we've brought up countless times. In the studies in this space, and again, as everyone is saying, it's not every household, but the chances are increased exponentially as it relates to when the parents are busied in other areas or when there is an imbalance within the household of father and mothers and children. And I studied throughout spaces like the Mormon community where it's more prominent, this thought of the children left to their own devices. And as she said, molestation is high in these areas. And that was one of the things that caused me to want to study this level of what we are saying we're moving towards in other cultures and to see how it plays out. And especially in the Mormon community in spaces like Utah and Colorado and all of these places, and they have witnesses and children who are now adults that are sharing their viewpoints. And, sadly, a lot of them have borne out this testimony of being molested and abused because the lines are not drawn. The mothers are otherwise engaged oftentimes, and the father is either not there or he's off to work. And so the government of the children are left to other children, which is always going to be a problem. So this definitely is a side effect of the very, very large families that people speak about they want to have not realizing that, someone has to be there. And if you have people with pre-existing issues, or if you have, like Brother Ahwar said, these things that begin to develop, then we begin to have issues and problems. So I want to thank you, the caller, for calling in, and we can go to the next caller on the line.
All right, let's go to the next caller. Let's go to 347-303. You're live on air.
Shalom, shalom. This is Sister Aisha. How's everybody tonight?
Shalom, sis.
Shalom. I'm in the middle with this. I definitely did not come out of a polygynous household. However, I did come from a culture where many men, my parents being from Guyana and South America, many of the men, it was quite known that they had women other than their wives. A man would be known to have a bush wife or a country wife and a city wife. And this was the kind of thing that went on, and the women knew they couldn't say anything about it, because in those days, women were, relegated to almost a second-class citizen. When somebody, I think earlier, talked about, back in the days, why didn't the women who were married to Solomon or David stand up? We can't compare life now to life then. Women in the ancient days may not, I don't know if they had the ability to speak out against something like that. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't. But that was quite common in the East. And, a lot of people married for financial status and, financial, just being able to survive. Parents would marry off their daughters to men of means. So, and in some cultures that still goes on. So I don't compare then to now, living in the United States where we're under this captivity. And like the sister just said, and I say hallelujah about the welfare. I met a brother, and I'm not insulting him. We met each other in tenant and landlord court, and we were talking, and we realized we were Israelites because he heard me greeting someone. And, him and his wife was there at tenant-landlord court. She was pregnant, and they had a baby there. So I thought they had two children. I see him because, part of the thing at tenant and landlord court, if you can't afford to come up with all the money, you're supposed to go to social services and ask for help. I see him a couple of weeks later at the social service office, and he's like, oh, my wife, Maisha, had a baby. And I was like, congratulations. I said, so that's your second. And he said, no, that's my fifth child. So that sister was right on the money with that. Here they are, and I'm not insulting anyone. If you need help, go get it. But you're getting help to pay your rent through the social service, but you have 5 children. And I don't know if he only had that particular wife, but you find that quite a bit in the Israelite community. And I'm not insulting anyone because I've needed help as well. However, a lot of us, especially for those of us that live in places like New York, you see that. So imagine a man taking on 2 or 3 wives. He more than likely, a lot of our brothers, I'm not going to say none of them, can't support that. In the Islamic community, because it's a community that's a little bit better structured than Yisrael, they, can be entrepreneurial and have different ways of earning money, whether it be driving cabs, selling incense, different things, and their community supports one another. So, in that respect, some of them may be able to support a polygynous household. And I'm not saying all of them because they have the same issues we do in a lot of cases. But we don't necessarily have that in Israel. And this idea of this side chick being a wife thing is another issue. Because even though the Most High says that, in the scriptures, that if you have one wife and you take on another one, nothing shall diminish, he doesn't say, the Most High never said anything about whoremongering, meaning that you just sleep with another woman, oh, that's my wife. I go to a strip club and meet a woman, sleep with her, oh, that's my wife too. That is whoremongering. That's not taking on a second wife. And if you have a second wife, then the first wife knows about this woman. If the first wife don't know about the second wife, you're not a second wife. You are a side chick or, mistress or whatever. And and I know that's not a new concept, but the Most High didn't say do it, where you got all these women that you're just sleeping with and they're your wives, and in the minute you and them don't get along, they're not my wives. You know, a lot of us women, you know, we want to hold some kind of possession to some of these brothers. And I have seen in the Israelite community and other communities where a lot of our brothers use manipulation because they know the women are going to be. In fact, I've even seen one particular brother who I will not name, you know, just stirring the pot. I went to a Shabbat event and he's like, well, I don't know why she barking because I brought you because you the first wife, she the second wife. You know, they don't even have the common sense to not repeat things and not say things to infuriate the women to war. They, you know, it's like, you know, let me stir the pot even more because if I keep stirring the pot, then maybe they won't notice that I'm broke and I don't have a job, or they all got to give me money when, you know, payday comes, and these women are arguing amongst each other. And I'm like, the catalyst of this is him. And a lot of these women want to blame Yisrael. It's not Yisrael. A lot of these men, before they came into this way of life, they were of the street, and they had more than one woman. All they did was come into Yisrael, change the garments, and call it polygyny. They were doing the same thing, and it's called pimping when they got ready. So, you know, us women have to. Oh, I'm sorry. Us women have to get common sense. Or you want to ask me? Somebody want to ask you a question?
Can I ask her a question before she leaves? She can talk. I just want to make sure I ask her a question before she goes.
Sure.
Go ahead.
Okay. I just want to know what's your take on Isaiah 4:1?
Oh, Father.
Is that the one where, wait a minute, which scripture is that? 7 women will hold on to one man?
Yeah, I just want to hear your take.
That is not a commandment. And I'm tired of Israelite brothers with that crap, too. That is not a commandment. That is a prophecy. And brother tried to pull that one on me one time. And you know what I don't like with some of these brothers? Israelite brothers will sit there and say this is a commandment. And then you got sisters like me who now other newer sisters are like, sister, is this true? And now we're here defending this way of life, and we're not even in the polygynous relationship. And I had to tell a sister that is not a commandment.
But
now, okay, go ahead.
I just want to say this right quick. Yeah, it's not a commandment, but this is something that the Most High said I'm going to do. So who is anybody to oppose what the Most High said he's going to do? Where does it say that you have to take on more than one wife? Where does it say that?
No, where does it say thou shalt take on more than one wife?
Wait.
Well, no,
and I'm somebody who doesn't even interfere. My dear, beautiful, sweet sister. First of all, that's not even a prophecy.
Oh, why not? Why not?
Because of something called context. Right?
Okay, I could be wrong, but this is the way. This is the way.
I got you. I understand.
It
but what I'm saying to you is
day,
that I get it. I read that scripture. I've been reading that scripture for over 20 years in this walk. I get it. But we're coming upon 10 o'clock. We're going to. There's definitely going to be a verse that we're going to have to. And going through more, but I can tell you, I can tell you, no, it is because I can tell you that Isaiah 4:1 has been one of the scriptures that men, my dear beloved brothers, have been used to club women to death to try to justify polygyny. When Isaiah 4:1 has nothing to do with that. In fact, I will submit to you that if you read Isaiah 4:1 in its proper context and you understand what it's talking about, for a man to continue to use that verse to support polygyny, something is wrong with you. It is not talking about...
Somebody got a frying pan waiting for their head. That's what that is.
No,
wait a minute now. We got to turn on the fire. Y'all turning it up. The pot bottom, you're supposed to be turning it down. Y'all over here turning it. Come on now. Don't do me like this.
No. Listen, it's okay. It's okay. I love war. Somebody just have a frying pan waiting for that head. Just make sure you got a helmet.
Oh, my God. Listen, everybody. I want to thank everybody for tuning in.
All I'm saying to you is that, a good question, because that was a very good question. I believe that was asked on his part. I don't think that was a dumb question. Isaiah 4:1, and she spotted off what you knew as far as it being a prophecy is concerned. And I just don't want to take away from the light that she was actually bringing forth. She was bringing forth some good points, and I don't want that to be interrupted by Isaiah 4 and 1.
What you say? Brother, he was trying to throw a red herring up in the bunch here.
Listen, man.
He was like, "Ooh, look over there, Isaiah 4 and 1," and then everybody started running over there. I feel you, brother Ahmathyah. Thank you for that, brother Ahmathyah. He was on the stage in the back.
Correct.
For those
and I
who
don't want to. I know.
I'm gonna just do my little thing. For those who just called in, you're at the bottom of the hour. What time is it? We're going to start winding down. We were having, it's half past the hour. We're going to start winding down. We were having the conversation. We're like, what are they talking about? It was side chicks. No. Second wives, side chicks, and side effects. We've been going into the side effects. We've been going into the differences. We're hearing from the callers. I had to jump in the middle here before, as Brother Ahmathyah said, the kite flies off and we lose the string, you know what I mean? And we go running over there. We definitely might have to make that a whole nother discussion, a community discussion, as always, about this Isaiah 4 and 1. It might have to be on the other side when we come back from break. But I just want to say I'll let Ahmathyah finish his thought, and then we're going to go to the phone lines to see if anyone else is waiting before we get closing thoughts. So, Brother Ahmathyah, my apologies. I just had to get in there real quick to kind of just, the pot was bubbling over. And so, what? Let me know your thoughts, and then we're going to go back to the phone line.
My thoughts are I just wanted to just let the sister, finish voicing her opinion. And, let me finish hearing what she has to say and see what relevance her words have to hold to the conversation. So I don't want to take any more of her time if she's still on hold, so that she can rock out. That's all.
All right. Thank you for that. All right. We have one more caller on the line after Sister Aisha. One more caller on the line. Sister Aisha, if you want to come on another panel,
I don't know what the brother why he brought up Isaiah 4, but I read it. I don't believe it's a commandment of the Most High. I'm tired of brothers using it, even though that was a good try. But I'm going to examine it carefully, and me and that brother can talk about that next time we bring that up. I'm going to let the next person speak.
Thank you so much for that. So, Brother Ahwar, we're going to have you on this panel now. Isaiah 4 and 1, round table council. Everybody put your hand up who's going to be on the panel. But I know Sister Mayanah going to be in the house, and we're going to hash out. Brother Ahmathyah is going to be back in the building. We're going to hash out this Isaiah 4 and 1 conversation. What you say, Brother Ahwar? Let us know.
Yes.
All right, Brother Sal, let's get the last caller through, and then we're going to wind down.
All right, going to the last caller. Let's go to 850-792. You're live in the air. 850-792. Can you hear me? Hello? Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear your background, too. I can hear you, though. Go ahead.
I got a bunch of children. Okay, so a lot of good points was brought out on this call. Shalom, everybody. I'm Yahusha. A lot of good points brought out on this. I kind of want to take it back to Shanti Dot. Shanti Dot asked a question. Whether men should they being raised on, how to be a husband. Like she brought up the point about little girls from the time they're about 5 years old, they get kitchen sets and stuff like that. So they're kind of, mentally programmed to be like a wife, but men don't get that. I'm in a broken home, bouncing from foster home to foster home. And that certainly was not something that I was taught. In fact, my early 20s make a mistake because I wasn't taught. Then when I came to the truth, I stayed single for a while because I knew that I wasn't ready for a wife. So I just decided to keep my focus on becoming a righteous man. And somewhere along the way, a woman came along, and I really didn't have to, spend a whole lot of time asking, okay, is this woman for me? Because we same goals. Like I knew that if I was ever going to have a family, I was going to dedicate my children to serving the Most High. And I knew that for that to be possible, and I also had to have the right woman who was also rooted and grounded in the Most High too. But the other thing is that I had to undo a lot of negative habits, and like we all are when we're coming to this walk. Okay, my wife and I, we have 7 children. Okay, now I've been in a polygamous home, before, where the man he owned the business. he had like 2 wives, and one there was like a mistress or whatnot who he had children before, but she was in the world or whatnot. And my biggest problem with that, with what was going on in that household, now these were righteous people, but the children didn't get enough time spent with them. The children, there were a lot of things that were overlooked with the children. And, with us having children, me and my wife, we've talked about maybe having, a second Isha. But in the same sense, like, one sister brought up the point about Isaiah 4. Yeah, me personally, I don't believe that's a commandment. In fact, I don't believe there's nowhere in the scripture where a man is commanded to have, more than one wife. But I don't believe there's a scripture that he can't either. However, now with that being said, when we think about what Paul says is that though I can do all things, not all things are expedient for me. So when we say that we live our lives to the Most High, okay, that means every decision that we make, we consult with him first. We're making sure it's okay. And if we're doing something, we're making sure that it's what he wants to do. So the brothers that talk about, having a second wife or a side chick, whatever you want to call it, okay, let's ask yourself, well, what is the motive for it? Is this really a thing where or I want, more sexual pleasure, I want more help. Like me and my wife, we were looking at doing it for having help with our children, But in the same sense, like, when I started, kind of looking for that sort of thing, I started noticing a certain spirit amongst the sisters that were coming my way, and that was that they were, they wanted me because I seemed like a good man, but in the same sense, okay, they also kind of wanted to, take me from my wife, if you will. But you have to look at the spirit of people that are coming in. What are, what is their agenda? They're saying one thing with their mouth, but what are they going to do, like as a man, what are they going to do for your home, okay? What effect is this woman going to have on your wife? Is your current wife, does she even have enough love in her heart to even deal with another sister that close in her home or sharing her man and so forth? Like, all of these types of things are things that have to be hashed out. And for the majority of people, majority of men, we're not in a situation where that's something that we need to pursue. One person brought out the issue about finances. Yes, you pretty much have to have your own business or be making, working a job where you make a heck of a lot of money. The other thing is, too, is that you have to be mentally, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually stable enough to be able to, provide for that woman, not financially, but taking the time spent with her, making sure that every one of her needs are met. Like if she's submitted to that man, then understand that takes a lot of energy from her too. So she needs some nourishment too. You have to ask yourself as a man, can I do that? Oh, and by the way, like me personally, could I do that and still look out for my 7 children and my first wife? Which personally, I don't think I can do it. I don't think I can. And I think that bringing that other woman in would really do more harm than good. So some brothers, like maybe a situation like this, where you got a lot of children, or maybe you both work jobs or whatnot, and you're really not putting enough time into the children that you would like. So in that case, everybody that thinks they need second wives don't need second wives. Some people just need good, trusted brothers and sisters in the walk that can help you with what you got going on. We're supposed to be a community of people loving each other, keeping the commandments of the Most High and whatnot, and we can all ship in. There are some sisters and men that have the gift to teach. Okay, some of us, we're trying to learn Hebrew, Greek, Aramaic. There's a lot of stuff we want to teach to our children, but we're not able to for whatever reason. So we think that bringing this other woman in is the better option when it's not the only option. So I know we're wrapping up, so I'm gonna leave off on that. But to answer Shanti Dot's question, no, the majority of men are not being taught how to be good husbands. In fact, we're getting wise. We think we got it. We're looking at the Mashiach and we're trying to follow the best example that we got, but we're still pretty broken as people. We don't have it. So polygamy is not something that's going to fix the conscious community or the Yasharal community. If anything, if they're not careful, it's going to tear it up. I know several brothers that's been in this walk for some time, and they've taken on multiple houses. They've taken on multiple wives, and now they're divorcing every last one of the wives. So we have to look at what's the motive for wanting to have more than a wife. And with that being said, I'm gonna check off now because I know we're getting towards the end. Shalom, everybody. Thanks for hearing me.
Thank you so much to the caller for calling and sharing your thoughts, sharing your experiences, sharing your wisdom. Thank you so much. I want to thank everybody. Today has been lit, you know what I'm saying? A very interesting conversation indeed, one that always is a kind of a different approach to it. If you're hearing this on the replay, feel free to respectfully leave your comments and questions. You know, somebody will get back to you, definitely. I believe Brother Sal said just one more person is on the line, and I believe it's an elder, so we're going to let them through and let their thoughts be heard, and then we're going to get the closing thoughts from the panelists. Brother Sal?
All right, 718-378. You're on there.
Kane, this is Emunah. Shalom, Od Pa'an. BT Mayanah and BT Yaisha, they were right on point. And just let me straighten out something about that Isaiah 4. Actually, the prophecy or the commentary begins in 3. And the reason why you have 7 women who are going to hold on to one man is because our young men have been slain. Now, I hear them talking about the 7 women, but I don't hear them talking about the men who have been slain. You have to look back in 3. 4 is just a continuation of 3. And all of these things have befallen us. Yes, they start talking about the daughters of Zion and how their beauty will be taken away and how their jewelry and all their finery will be taken away. But they also talk about because the young men are going to be slain, because it is a pronouncement against Israel for their evil doings. So a lot of men like they like that idea of, 7 women. You know what I mean? But they forget about this other thing. Not only that, but when we look at Hebraic culture, every woman could expect to be married at some point. Not that every woman got married, but every woman could expect to be married in a righteous society that is an orderly society. And in that kind of society, the woman wouldn't be running out looking for men. I understand that today you have that because of the society in which we're reared. In the society where we're reared, a woman can go out and seek a man, and a woman can be free about doing that. Earlier in our history, even with the oppression upon us, that was not the case. I remember in my mother's generation and my grandmother's generation, you didn't go out unchaperoned. You didn't go out running all over the place. A woman like that had a very special name put upon it, and it wasn't a nice one. So that's not conducive to our culture, not even in ancient days and not even in modern days if you consider the 20th century modern times. So we need to get that straight. And I understand now that women are reaching the desperation point because those men that are not homosexual, those men who are not on the down low, those men who don't want to be desired to be women, transvestites, those men who are not in jail, those men who are not beating up on their women, those men who are not having baby mama drama all over the place, those men are rare. So what happens is that if the situation were reversed, I guarantee you our men would take a different stance. If you had too many men and just few women, and we've seen that and even in American history, then the situation is reversed. Being realistic, we understand that because of the conditions of our society, these are the dynamics that are present. However, if we're talking about, when we're looking at how Israelite marriages should be structured, that man, when they say a man who findeth a wife findeth a good thing, you're looking for the qualities in a wife. There's the only instances where I see where it's just a matter of you looking at a woman and you desiring her, and not to say that this doesn't happen even in Israelite marriages, is when a woman is a captive. But if you're going to allow a captive woman 30 days to mourn her family after you've shaved her head and pared her nails, you mean to tell me that you figure that an Israelite sister, all you got to do is, okay, baby, we go out on the first date and right away we're in the meetup? What kind of food is that? You understand what I'm saying? So we're not really thinking, because our fathers, if you notice that Abraham, even though he had concubines and he had a wife, he was thinking about his progeny. He was thinking about what kind of legacy was he going to leave for the future. And when he talked about his son, Yitzchak, who he considered his son of legacy, the son of the covenant, he didn't want him to be married to the women of the land. He wanted to go back to his own people, because where the woman comes from is important as well. How the woman is bred is important as well. If you're going to have righteous families, then you've got to you got to look at how these women are bred as well. And it can't be just a thing of where you just dropping your seed everywhere because you want to have 19 children who call you Abba. It's got to be that you really think about what you're doing as far as that seed is concerned. After all, you're saying that you want your seed to be the next generation, and you want it to be a generation of righteousness. So what are you doing in your generation that is going to assure that? So I would ask you, before some of us, and I know this has happened a lot of times with men and women, well, before we start thinking about these loose alliances, whatever you want to call them, the fact is that we got to think about, if we're really trying to build a nation in righteousness, then we had better think about our righteous choices. And with that, I yield. Toda Rabah.
Wow. That was the voice of Emunah Ami. Thank you so much for letting your voice be heard. Something and many things to consider. Thank you once again for calling in. For those who have just joined us, we're winding down now. We're going to get some very short closing comments from our panelists. I want to thank you for joining us, all the panelists who made this possible. Shout out to Brother Shao Showtime. And I have one more show for this season, which is next week, which is going to be Under the Palm. So be sure to tune into that. I'm going to go around the board now, starting off with Sister Mayanah. What are your closing thoughts for this conversation?
Sis, if I can go ahead and very quickly read one of the comments from the trenches. They had one thought they wanted to have mentioned on air. Do we have time for me to read the statement?
You can read it.
Okay. The sister who would like to remain nameless for this portion, she says the other thing that she would like to have included in the conversation is the idea of the men who have the idea of this blended family. What about the women who have children that were fathered by other men, and this idea of the blended family, especially in light of the fact that there are men who are preoccupied with their own seed. So what happens with those children in those unions? I'll read it more directly. I have it back. I found it. Okay. There are stories in the news about certain families that either murder or have negative consequences with the children because of the obsession with his, quote, seed, close quote. She's reflecting on, I thought this was about nation building. And so these kinds of negative consequences are obviously contrary to that. So to the men, also, do you want your daughter to share a husband or be the number 2 or 5 or 12th wife? So I guess she's asking the men to think about whether or not they would want this for their own daughters, and for the listening audience and I guess the panel to maybe address, we don't have time to do it, but to address the idea that sometimes these families are not blending. The men are not necessarily welcoming of these other children who have other fathers. I know that there was a time, I think Ahmathyah remembers this as well, that there was a time where in order to marry a brother, the brother would suggest quite firmly that the woman return her children to whomever their father was in order to be in this new relationship, because he had no intention of raising a child that was not his. And so what happens in those circumstances, as we're discussing, as the sister says, nation building and righteous children, and this idea of blending families. So, you know, the women are expected to embrace children by other women, but the men are less apt to do so. And those are her thoughts. So I wanted to give her the opportunity to have her thoughts on the air. Emunah, I don't know if you want to give someone a chance to respond to that, or we'll just go right into our closing thoughts. Can I be heard?
Yeah, Emunah. Are you there,
Oh,
Emunah?
I'm over here like having a whole conversation to my onesie. Anywho, I was Her name was like Emunah. Oh, my bad. No, I was saying it's such an important aspect or side effect of so many things that I think it deserves its own space. I wanted to thank the commenter for sharing that and, talking about blended family, as well as the commenter earlier, Deborah brought up what happens in these blended families. So if I may submit, I will put that on the next to Isaiah 1 and 4, we could put it on the schedule to have like a whole conversation that's geared towards what does the scripture say about it? How should it be approached in real time? Do you understand what I'm saying?
I agree.
So that we don't just rush through or gloss over it. So if that's okay, we could look forward to that conversation in the near future.
I completely agree. I think that's such an important conversation, and that it would be a disservice to kind of tuck it in the 11th hour in that way. I think it would be a huge disservice because, as you said, this is a practical issue. A lot of women have already had children, and prior to coming into the knowledge of the truth, and prior to meeting the man that they want to create a family with, and then what happens to their children and how that gets blended or not blended. And I think that you're right. We should definitely spend more time with it since I won't even call it a red herring. I'm going to say catfish because at least catfish is unclean. Herring is a clean fish. This was definitely an unclean Isaiah 4 and 1. So my closing thoughts are these. When it comes to polygyny, as a marriage strategy, it is not arguable. I won't argue that it is a marriage strategy that has been entertained and practiced by any number of cultures, any number of traditions over, time immemorial. But the issue is whether or not it is for us, and whether or not it is the only. Again, I like this idea that whomever brought this up, and forgive me for not remembering, the idea of this being the only strategy. When you need assistance in the household, you can hire someone for that practice. And I think Emunah has said it before. I have said it before. We have had numerous public conversations, community conversations about that. That there are handmaidens. We had handmaidens. We had any number of servants that was their job. You did not have to pleasure the help in order for her to help. We have sisters that, at least in my experience, we had sisters, whole networks of sisters that were willing to help one another without laying with your husband. And so I think that it's interesting that very often one of the things that I see women saying is that, I'm fine with having another woman in the house because I'm looking for sisterhood. And so I think this is a new thing that suddenly we feel that the one that's our sister is the one that has shared intimacies with the Ish. I think that's a very interesting new kind of psychology that the women are employing in order for this to make sense to them. And again, so as from my perspective, polygyny is an actual marriage strategy. Whether or not and how it's being applied Hebraically is very often problematic, and those are the things that we have to parse through. If we're using bad information in order to justify this pursuit, then we really need to rethink that. Isaiah 4 and 1, as most people have already established, that is not a justification. It's not an in for polygyny. No one is. I'm going to say this, and then you do your own research, and we'll pick it up when we do that discussion. But Isaiah is not talking to all of Israel. He's talking to Jerusalem. It says so very clearly, beginning with the first chapter. So, again, that's homework for the people who believe that Isaiah 4 and 1 belongs to the entire nation. Once you discover that it wasn't a discussion given to the entire nation, but only to Jerusalem, which only had Judah, Benjamin, and half of Levi, what happens to the other 9.5 tribes? What were they, so-called tribes? What were they supposed to be doing, since that was a directive given to them? I'll end it on that note because, again, we're going to pursue it in detail at another time. But Emunah, we have a lesson on it also. So when you go to Under the Palm, the official channel Under the Palm on YouTube, please feel free to subscribe to that and go ahead and look at all of the work that Emunah and I have done together and separately that you can find all in one place on YouTube. I believe that Sal routinely puts the link in the description box below. So, Toda, very much for all of you who called in and have participated. Laila Tov.
Thank you for that. That was the voice of Sister Mayanah. We are going to come now to Brother Ahmathyah. Brother Ahmathyah, second wives, side chicks, and side effects. What are your closing thoughts?
No, I think both all the panelists and especially the callers pretty much capsules for me. I'm just pretty much happy that we've decided to have this discussion and really decided to put this paradigm underneath a microscope and see if it's a healthy one. Definitely no one denies the historicity of it, that it was practiced, but there is that false assumption or narrative that simply because you're a guy or you're a man, then you're entitled to that. I'm just happy that we all just decided to come together as a community and sit down at the round table and ask those hard questions and provoke one another in love, of course, to go back and to seek some answers so that we can, of course, come back again with hopefully some more foresight and thought and prayer. And that's it. And with that, I yield.
Thank you for that. That was the voice of Brother Ahmathyah. Thanks for joining us as well. Brother Ahwar, what are your closing thoughts, second wives, side chicks, and side effects? What are your closing thoughts of the conversation?
Oh, okay. I just wanted to say this, right? Going back to what I was trying to say earlier about, sometimes men need to have that moment, and how I felt when I was expressing that. Well, I'm going to give an example in Scripture right quick, and just to show that, we come from descendants of Casanovas and men that love women. And this is 1 Kings, the first chapter starting one. It says, "Now King David was old and stricken in years, and they covered with his clothes, but he got no heat." Then it says, "Wherefore his servants said unto him, Let there be sought for my lord a king, a young virgin." Then it says, "And let her stand before the king, and let her cheer him and cherish him, and let her lie in thy bosom, that thy my lord the king may get heat." Then it says, "So they sought for a fair damsel throughout all the coast of Israel, and found Abishag a Shunammite, and brought her into the king. And the damsel was very fair. So when David needed to be heated up, they went and looked for a nice little, pretty little sister." Then it says, "And the damsel was very fair, and cherished the king, and ministered to him. But the king knew her not," so he didn't sleep with her. But I just wanted to show that the servants had that mind that I was talking about, that they figured, okay, let's get a woman and cheer up the king. And that's the same concept I was talking about, a side chick. Sometimes a man want another woman to get cheered up. That's what I was bringing out. I just wanted to make that point, but I'm going to leave it with that. And it was a good show, and hopefully we'll do more shows. And confession is good for the soul, and I would like more, too, that more women bring out some flaws that they have and tell some testimony like us men be doing, and stop keeping those secrets. But I'm just going to say that, but y'all have a good night. I'm going to pass the mic.
Give me that gaggle one time and bounce.
Brother.
Brother
War, man. I want to thank everybody for calling in. And yes, confession is good for the soul. Brother War gave us some confessions, something to think about. I want to definitely thank you for being with us since season 1. You know what I'm saying? So Brother War has been riding with us the whole time, Sister Mayanah the whole time, Brother Sal. Brother Ahmathyah just came on. So all of you are very much appreciated. The listening audience is very much appreciated. The elders are very much appreciated. I want to thank everybody for your concerns, your questions, your thoughts, your energy. And may the Most High continue to bless us as we journey through our own wilderness of our own mind and hopefully begin to turn away from the things that we used to do, confess our wrongs, and elevate in righteousness. So with that said, Brother Sal, the mic is yours.